7-year-old office clerk Chad Smith is suing his ex-wife, 23-year-old car detailer Amber Hampton, for return of child support. Chad says he is not the father of Amber's son.
That's case number 441 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Hampton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Smith, Miss Hampton is your former wife, and at the time you met, the defendant was pregnant. The child was born during your marriage, but you are not the child's biological father.
No, ma'am. It wasn't born during the marriage.
No, ma'am.
When was he born?
February 21st, 2001.
And when did you marry?
In April of 2001.
Could you keep your voice up, please? I'm old and my hearing is not as good as it used to be.
April of 2001.
Okay. I only devour litigants on Thursday. When did you separate?
It was about July of 2001.
So you were together for 3 months?
Yes.
When were you divorced?
Well, to the courts, we were divorced in 2002.
So you lived together as husband and wife for 3 months?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
the boy was born prior to that, but it was both of your understanding that this was not your biological child.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were incarcerated off and on from 2001 to 2003.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, Miss Hampton obtained a divorce, named you as the child's father, and at some point you were ordered to pay child support. You were not present in court.
Yes,
it was a default. I don't know whether you were in jail or out of jail. Were you in jail or out of jail when there was a default?
I was in jail.
Had you been served with the papers?
No, ma'am.
In any event, subsequently, when you got out of jail, you went to court and you had the child support order stopped. But in the interim, money was deducted from whatever salary you had.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want that money back?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hampton said that you were aware of the fact that you were not the child's biological father. You agreed to assume responsibility for his care. Your name is on the child's birth certificate. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Is not?
No. He was in jail at the time Tyler was born, so he was not able to sign the birth certificate.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Hampton. Why did you, in the judgment of divorce, name Mr. Smith as the child's father?
I told my lawyer that he wasn't the father, but he had claimed responsibility. And my lawyer said that since we were living together before the child was born and afterward, and that he wanted my son to have his last name, that he was responsible for it.
Well, all of that is supposition on your lawyer's part, if in fact he told you that, because A, he had not signed the birth certificate, B, he had not claimed responsibility, and more importantly, according to the timeline that both of you gave me, you were married in April of 2001, and less than 3 months later, you separated. So this commitment that he made to your son was of short duration. Then he was in jail. Who was the child's father?
His father's name is Mike.
Is what?
Mike.
Mike. And did you notify Mike that he has a son?
He knows, but we have no contact with each other.
Well, who supports the boy?
I do.
And how long have you done that?
Since he was born.
Good. Then why did you pursue Mr. Smith for support?
I had quit working after I had my second child, and I went through family assistance, and they went after child support.
So you went on welfare?
Yes, ma'am.
After you had a second child with whom?
His name is James.
Shh. Now, where does James fit in this picture? Why didn't he support his child?
He does now, but we had broken up for a time due to a disagreement. We were both working and going to college, and he wasn't there when she was born.
So is what you're telling me that the state pursued the issue of support?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive any of this money, or did it all go to welfare?
Part of it went to welfare, and then I received the other part.
Well, do I have any indication of how much you received for the child support as opposed to the state?
I have none of that paperwork. DHR.
Do you?
No, ma'am. Just what I paid in child support.
Listen, Mr. Smith, there's a problem, sir. My sense is that whatever you paid in child support, a part of that went to the state.
Yes, ma'am.
Not to her. I don't know how much that was. What were you in jail for, Mr. Smith?
Probation violation.
That's not a crime.
Yes, ma'am. It was breaking and entering a vehicle.
Burglary?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
One count of that. Yes, ma'am.
One count to cover how many charges, sir?
5.
You know, you think that these things just come to you?
No, ma'am.
There's experience there. You don't spend that much time in jail in this country with overcrowded prisons, unfortunately, for one count of breaking and entering into a car. But when you've been arrested a whole slew of times and you get a lawyer who says, look, we'll lump them all together, one count, how much time did you serve?
I was placed on probation under youthful offender.
And?
And then I had a 3-year sentence if I broke probation.
And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Failure to report to my probation officer.
Anything else?
That should be it. That's it.
You mean to tell me they put you back in jail for how long because you failed to report to your probation officer? Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Smith?
Well, it could have been...
And I don't want you to look over there. I want you to try to bring those eyes right back here.
I got attempting to elude because I had...
Attempting to elude?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that you were running away from the police?
Yes, ma'am.
When they came to bring you in so that you could chat with your probation officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you were attempting to elude the police, how did you do that, Mr. Smith?
I ran.
How long did it take them to catch you?
About 6 hours.
So you were running pretty fast. How long have you been out of prison, Mr. Smith?
A year and a half.
Any trouble since?
No, ma'am.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, says his ex-wife, Amber Hampton, falsely named him as the father of her child. He is suing her for the return of child support.
The problem, Mr. Smith, is that probably a good piece of this money went to the state where you live because they were supporting her and this little boy. How much did you pay for the divorce, sir?
I haven't paid anything.
And are you divorced now?
Yes.
Okay, and you paid about $3,000 in child support?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to consider that the cost of your divorce, sir. If you don't want to think of it as child support, think of it as the cost of your divorce, because it is impossible for me to determine how much money of the money that was deducted from your salary went to Miss Hampton and how much went to the state. And I certainly can't, although there's a basic unfairness about it, I certainly can't say to her, you have to return the money to him when she didn't get it. So, you made some mistakes in your life, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
This was just another mistake. Costly, unfortunate, but there is nothing that I can do to help you.
I also had my lawyer fees where I had to take her back to court to get everything dropped.
That's a different story. Let me see that, please. Did you bring the baby to jail to visit him?
Yes, ma'am. He had called me a little bit before Father's Day, and I was nice enough to take Tyler up there to see him.
Why did you do that, sir?
Because then I had found out that she had filed for divorce stuff.
Why did you ask to see the baby?
I didn't. She brought him up there.
He asked how how me and him were doing and everything like that, so I didn't.
But he didn't ask you to have regular visits with him while he was in jail with the baby?
Until right after we went to court and I did my statement to the judge, I had no idea where he was. I had not seen him.
So the answer is no. So how much in total did you pay the lawyer, sir?
$500.
Okay. Do you have the final copy of the judgment of divorce with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
modification on it, deleting the child's name? Let's see, please. Well, this talks about the child.
It also says she don't know where I was during the whole proceedings, but she did because I got the letter from jail.
But with that, I went to court on February 27th, before Father's
Of 2002. This judgment was filed March of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you find out where he was?
It was right before Father's Day. I don't remember what the day
How did you
was.
find out where he was?
He called me.
Was that the first time he had called you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the postmark on this letter is May of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
What evidence do you have that she knew where you were?
It's highlighted.
Oh, it says here, I already knew you were here in jail and how you got caught. I had seen Chris in Walmart right after you were caught.
Yes, ma'am. That was right before he called. Actually, I think it was the day he called me from jail.
How much after you got caught, sir, did you call her?
It was probably about 3 months.
I believe you knew where he was. You all live in the same general vicinity?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you knew where he was. Minimally, Miss Hampton, you're going to pay his legal fees because I think that you should have at least advised the judge that he was in jail and that he couldn't respond. And since he had to retain an attorney to at least get rid of the paragraph here that talks about the boy and that talks about visitation shall be at the discretion of the plaintiff, you should have been a little more forthcoming with your lawyer. And you weren't. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just wanted to get on with my life and start my new family and everything.
I just can't believe that he even got with her because she's crazy.
Don't marry too many times.
Be very careful who you marry.
Student Barbara Evans Cunningham is suing her ex-husband, store manager Bruce Evans, for his share of a Honda Accord purchased for their son. Bruce claims he never promised to pay for the vehicle.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 292 on the calendar, the matter of Evans Cunningham versus Evans. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Cunningham, Mr. Evans was your husband.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you have one child?
Yes, ma'am.
A boy who is in high school now.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that a couple of years ago, the two of you agreed that if your son got straight A's or good grades, that when he was a senior in high school, the two of you would chip in to buy a car.
Yes, ma'am.
You purchased a car for your son, and the defendant did not contribute half the money for the car.
That is correct, ma'am.
Unfortunately, the car that you purchased for your son blew an engine within a relatively short period of time, and you were forced to go out and buy another car for him.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not asking Mr. Evans to pay for that second car, but you want him to pay his half of the first car, which no longer exists. Is that right? That's what you're suing for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Evans says that you didn't consult him about the car, and he's not paying.
That's correct.
Okay. So, how long have you been divorced?
We've been divorced, ma'am, almost 10 to 11 years. I've known Mr. Evans since I was 16 years old.
Okay. Now, when did you purchase this car for your son? The first one?
The first car, ma'am, was 19 July of this year for my neighbor.
What kind of car was it?
It was a 1990 Honda Accord, ma'am, four-door sedan.
And how much did you pay for the car?
The car cost $1,770.
When did you discuss this purchase with your husband?
Beginning the month of May 2004.
What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
He stated, that's good, does the body look good on the car, does the car run well? And I stated yes, that my neighbor showed me where he maintained the maintenance on the car periodically. He stated that that's fine, go ahead with the purchase.
Is that right?
No.
Well, tell me what happened when she called you.
She called me and told me that her neighbor was selling the car for $1,500. She said that he was moving or something and that she could get the car. I told her, well, what kind of car is it? Because I haven't seen the car. Can I come check the car out or look at the car? She said that she know her neighbor pretty well because he lives right next door and that he takes good care of his cars and that she figured that it was good because she know him and she didn't think that he would sell her anything that wasn't
in good shape.
Right.
And what did you say to her?
I told her that, okay, then let me look at the car. You know,
well,
so,
you should listen to me, Mr. Evans. Let's not dance around with each other, sir.
Okay.
If things make sense, they make sense. It makes sense that she told you about this car and you said, well, I'd like to take a look at it.
Correct.
That makes sense. And she said, well, I don't think, according to you, I don't think I have to take a look at it. This is my neighbor. I know him very well. I know that he's taken good care of the car. I've seen the records on the car. And then you have to say something else. Either you say to her, well, I still want to take a look at it and I'll call and make an appointment, or you say to her, fine. Now, which is it?
I told her I still wanted to look at the car. I told her, I asked her when was the guy moving and when was the last day that she was going to actually get the car. She didn't actually purchase the car from the guy until the day before he left.
So why didn't you go over there and take a look at it?
He did, ma'am.
Shh.
No,
Just a second. He did?
Yes, ma'am.
When did he go over there, Miss Cunningham?
Ma'am, he did a drive-by of the car in June.
When you say a drive-by?
The car is parked in front of the neighbor's yard, and I shared with him, it was on a Sunday evening, he was picking up our son. I stated that the car is parked in the front yard of my neighbor. When you pick Kelvin up, you could pass by and see the car. He acknowledged that the car was showroom clean, based on the outside of the body.
I never met the neighbor, so I don't...
Just a second. You don't have to meet the neighbor, Mr. Evans.
Well, I'm saying as far as going to his yard and stuff.
Mr. Evans,
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
you ask for the neighbor's name?
No, because
Just a second. Is there any reason why you didn't ask for the neighbor's name?
I asked her to set it up so we could go by and look at it
What's
together.
wrong with you? She's already looked at the car. If you want to look at the car, Mr. Evans, you have to be proactive.
Asking her to set it up with a neighbor that she already knows is proactive. I just can't go to this
No, it
man's
isn't.
house and just
No,
say,
it isn't. Listen to me. Baloney. Listen, Mr. Evans. Baloney. I'm sympathetic with you to this. When I read your answer to this extent, you said, well, she bought this car, she didn't ask for my input, and if she bought the car without asking for my input, I'm not paying for half. That's what you said in your answer, right?
That is correct.
And I'm telling you that I was sympathetic with that answer because I think that it's wrong for someone, if in fact it's true, for Miss Cunningham to say, listen, we agreed 2 years ago we were going to buy my son a car. I saw my neighbor's car, I liked the car. I went and bought the car, and then I presented my ex-husband with half the bill. And my ex-husband said to me, I'm not paying for half the bill on this car that you picked out yourself because I didn't have any input. That's what you're saying, and I was sympathetic. But that's not what happened,
That is
Mr.
what-
Evans. No.
Judge, I never saw the car.
That's your fault. That's your fault. You have two eyes, you have a mouth, you have a finger that can do the walking through the yellow pages and the white pages.
To get
I am
with her to
speaking.
get this done.
I am speaking, sir. Now, certain things make sense, and I've been in this business a long time. What kind of work do you do, sir?
Manage a payday loan store.
And if somebody doesn't give you the money, what do you do?
We try calling them and getting them to come in and
Now, when you try calling them, let's say, put your papers down. Let's say you have their address
Yes, ma'am.
and you don't have a telephone number.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
Mail them a letter.
Did you ever think of calling information to get a telephone number? Have you ever done that, Mr. Evans? You know exactly where I'm going, sir. You
Yes,
get
ma'am.
information, you try to get it from information. You take out a phone book, you turn to the white pages and see in the white pages whether there's an address that corresponds with that. Or you can do both and mail them a letter.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm saying to you, Mr. Evans, you are a smart man. You're a businessman. If you wanted to take a look at this car, inside and out, all you had to do was be a little proactive.
She never gave me the person's name.
No, she doesn't have to give you. Listen to me. You ask. You did not ask.
Judge, I asked Barbara to let me come by and look at the
He
car.
had a key.
Shh. Don't ask Barbara. Barbara has taken care of your son for the last 11 years.
Barbara and I have taken care of our son.
No,
for the
listen to
last
me. No.
11 years.
Let's get it straight.
Shh.
Barbara and I have taken care of our son.
1, 2. You know what?
Barbara
you know
has
what that
not
means?
taken care of our son by herself.
Listen
I have
to me.
always been there for my child,
Just
and
a second.
I
With whom?
don't want her being in court saying
I'm
that.
speaking. Don't speak over me.
Yes,
ever.
ma'am.
Who has primary physical custody of your son?
Kelvin is with Barbara because Kelvin...
Don't tell me because. Who has primary?
I do.
You do. Let me see the papers that give you primary physical custody.
I don't have them with me.
Okay.
When
Now,
we got a divorce, Judge,
Barbara, turn around.
when we got a divorce years ago, I had primary custody of our son. I had him for the 9 months he was in school. She had him for the summer months. That's in the divorce decree. Okay, after Kelvin stayed with me for the first 4 years, then with Barbara kept calling and complaining and crying to him, saying how much this and how much that, he asked me, he said, Daddy, can I go stay with my mom, son? I said, okay, son, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what you want to do, I'll let you do that. I moved so I can be close to him. Barbara got transferred again to Colorado. I moved out to Colorado so I can still be close to my son. She got transferred to St. Louis. I moved to St. Louis so I can still be close to my one and only son, so I could be there for him to help raise him. So with her coming up in here saying that I have not helped and I have not been there for my son, that is downright ridiculous.
So then I'm asking you, sir, if you did all this moving from one city to another city to another city, with all that entails for moving, so for the last 6 years, he's been living with his mother. You've moved. So for the last 6 years, full-time, she's been the full-time custodial parent. And you've moved so that you could accommodate her work. Whatever that was, you've moved because you thought it was in your child's best interest. You moved, you've changed. You've gotten an apartment, you've got turned on gas, electric, telephone. You've moved, you've transferred registrations on cars. And you're telling me that you couldn't find out the name of the neighbor who lives next door so you could go and look at the car? Mr. Evans, I don't buy it.
Judge,
Now,
if she had allowed me the opportunity to do that before she moved ahead, then that's what would have happened. But she did not allow me the opportunity.
Oh, stop
that's
it.
just like after the car.
Stop crying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Barbara Evans Cunningham says ex-husband Bruce Evans owes for his share of a Honda Accord purchased for their son. Bruce says Barbara didn't consult him first.
Now, I find first that you did in fact agree to pay for half the car. That she in good faith called you and said to you before she purchased the car, I have the ability to purchase this car that I think is a good deal. You said to her, is it a good car? I'd like to come and take a look at it. You're leaving it up to her. And she's a working gal too, I gather, because you say that you moved to accommodate her career, which means that she probably earns more than you do. So that she's a busy girl. So instead of you making the appointment with the neighbor, because I'm sure this is a perfectly nice person that she purchased the car from, and you're not a bad man. I mean, you're not an ex-convict, are you?
No.
Good. So the neighbor wouldn't suggest, I don't want him near me, or near my house, or near my children, or near my family. You're just a nice man. You're a nice man who's got a child who needs a car, a teenager. And you say, listen, I want to come and take the car out because I understand that my ex-wife wants to buy it. That's a very simple thing. Very simple. You chose not to do that. You chose to say, you make the arrangements. And when she didn't make the arrangements, she said to you, give me the $850. You said no. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $850. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bruce has been very downright evil to me. He has always manipulated the system. He has never held a full-time job in his whole life.
My ex-wife is just disgruntled. That's all it is.
I have no reason to be disgruntled and upset because I have a very wonderful life. And my life got better after I got rid of him.
For her to get in court and say that I'm not there to take care of my son or not help with my son, it's just downright ridiculous.
I'm going to applaud and scream with hallelujah when you're out of all of your money. You're nothing but a freeloader.
So Barbara just got some evil ways about her, I guess, and that's all it is.
Don't have babies for men that don't take care of their responsibilities.
All parties in the matter of Fisk versus Billy, step forward, please.
18-year-old cashier Francis Fisk is suing his former friend, construction worker Diane Billy, for injuries his pit bull received while in Diane's care. Diane is countersuing for unpaid dog-sitting fees.
According to what I read, you have a dog. What kind of a dog is it?
She's a pit bull mix.
And for some reason, you were moving, whatever, you couldn't take the dog with you, so you asked the defendant if she would be willing to take care of your dog for a while.
Yes, there was agreement set up between her and my girlfriend's father, and she's a friend of his. And,
yes.
He asked her if she'd keep the dog. She said, yeah, it's not a problem. She lives out in the country as long as we supplied her food.
The agreement was not with you, it was with your girlfriend's father.
That's right.
Okay. And how long was she supposed to mind the dog for?
We didn't really have a set time. It was just until we found a new place to live.
So anywhere from a day to 10 years?
Basically, just until we found a spot to live.
According to your complaint, when you got the dog back, someone had severely beaten the dog.
Yes, that's right.
And had severe head trauma. You want Miss Billy to take care of the vet bills.
Yes.
That's what the case is about. And Miss Billy says she doesn't know what happened to the dog. She certainly didn't beat the dog. And you owe her for food and for boarding the dog. So that's your counterclaim.
Yes.
When did she take possession of your dog?
It was towards the end of August.
How old is this dog?
13 months.
How long had you had her?
Like 10 months.
From the time she was a puppy. Now, did you go to visit regularly?
Yeah, at least 3 or 4 times a week.
And did you bring the food as you promised you would?
Yes.
All the time?
We left a bag over there so she could feed the dog when we weren't there. But every time we went over there, my dog's food bowl was empty, her water bowl was dry.
If that happened every time, Mr. Fisk, why didn't you remove the dog from her care?
Because I had no place else to take her.
Why didn't you allow her to be adopted by somebody else?
Nobody wants a pit bull.
Well, you wanted a pit bull.
That's right.
I had another case not long ago with people who had a pit bull. So evidently a lot of people had a pit bull. That's not a smart thing to do.
It was hard. I mean, it was...
What efforts did you make to try to find somebody else to take the dog?
Everything I could. I talked to my mother, her friends, everybody I knew, and I couldn't find a place.
Did you put an ad in the paper?
No.
For a 10-month-old pit bull?
No.
Friendly?
No, I didn't put any ads in the paper.
When did you find the dog injured?
I got a call on October 15th at about 10:30 saying, your dog is sick, I don't know what's wrong with her, you need to come get her. I couldn't go, I had to go to work, so I got in contact with my girlfriend at school. She came home, her and her stepmother went and got the dog and took her to the vet.
When did you see the dog?
When I picked her up from the vet's office after I got off work.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Justine Price.
Ms. Price, would you describe the dog when you went there?
Well, she was usually kept in a kennel, and she was in their breezeway inside of a cardboard box. She was bleeding really bad from her mouth, and when I tried to, like, move her lips to see what was wrong, I don't know, it was like a seizure. Like, she started turning her head around real bad, so we took her to the vet.
You have a report from the vet?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
You just want all the evidence?
No, I want the report from the vet. The dog had a broken jaw as a result of trauma. They wired her jaw. How did this happen to his dog?
I don't know.
Who lives in your house?
I have roommates that live there. Matt was there.
Who's Matt? How is he related to you?
He's not. He's a good friend of mine. I work with him.
Was Matt at home when this happened?
We don't know what happened. The dog was loose for 2 days, and I called to let them know that the dog was loose for 2 days. And
when was the dog loose? What, 2 days?
2 days before, the Friday that I fed the dog, it came back that Thursday. She got loose on Wednesday, and she was gone for 2 days.
And then she came back?
And she came back. I tied her up. It was dark out. I tied her up. I didn't think that anything was wrong with her. She didn't act, you know. And then the next morning when I went to go feed her, that's when her head was sideways, and she looked sick, so I called Frankie to let him know that their dog was sick and they'd take it to the vet. And he said he had to go to work. They never.
You know what happened to the dog?
I have no idea.
What?
He's the one that's accused of hitting my dog. But I couldn't do anything about it because I couldn't prove it.
Well, what makes you think he hit your dog?
Because the person that spoke to her and spoke to us told us the whole story. I mean, I wasn't there. I can't say that's what happened. But I heard the same story from two people that both associate with Diane. They both go over there and party and get drunk and whatnot. They both associate with her. And they both told me that he's the one that hit my dog.
Oh, somebody hit your dog. What do you do for a living?
Work construction, concrete.
How old are you?
18.
Did you have a party over there on October 14th?
Yeah.
I don't hear you. Yeah is not an answer. Yes is an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
How many people were at the party?
Just a couple people. It was
a couple is two.
All right, like 5 or 6.
Now, I want you to list the 5 or 6 people that were at the house. I want you to make sure you list them all right.
Sean, Becca, Dusty, me, Diane, and Marky.
And what was the drink of choice that evening?
Bud Light.
Anything other than Bud Light?
No, ma'am.
Where was Miss Bealey?
Oh, she was there. I'm sorry.
Were you playing any games that evening, sir?
No, ma'am.
Where was the dog?
Outside.
Tied up?
Yeah, it should have been.
Was the dog making noise?
It barked.
How many times did the dog bark?
I don't know.
Did you go out to see?
Dogs bark. They were both barking.
So between the time you had this party on the 14th and the 15th, something happened to the dog. What do you think that was?
I have no idea.
I don't either. All right, let's take care of this. You are responsible for the vet bills, madam. When you assume a responsibility, even if you assume a gratuitous responsibility, you have an obligation to see to it that no harm happens to this dog. We understand each other? And if you've got 5 or 6 teenagers, either chronologically or mentally, drinking beer in your house, and something happens to this dog, that's your fault. Now, these are prospective vet bills. It may work, the jaw wiring may work, and may not work.
When I spoke to my vet, she's had some problems breathing. And when I spoke to him, he said there's more than like a 90% chance she's going to have the major surgery.
Probably. Well, in any event, this dog has suffered substantially. Your claim is for $1,000, which, as far as I'm concerned, is most reasonable considering the vet bills that you had and the prospective vet bills. And I'm giving you these vet bills because I believe that they're responsible for what happened to your dog. Either they or some of the other drunken people that were at her house on the 14th of October. But I have pets. I love them. And if I left them someplace and went over to see them and there was no food and no water, that may happen once. But you said you never saw food and water in the bowl.
It was hard.
Then you don't tell me it was hard. It's your fault. Better off to take a dog to the Humane Society and let them look for another home for the dog rather than to let the dog stay there and be without food and water so that it runs away and to have its head used as a golf ball. You're not supposed to be an idiot even though you're 18. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was messing around, throwing a golf ball up in the air, hitting it with a bat.
I had no idea what happened to the dog. I mean,
Dog jumped to get the ball. He hit the dog instead.
everybody says I did it. Whatever.
And then they tried to lie to me.
I don't know what happened to the dog, but when I found out that the dog looked sick, and then I did call him.
I'm not sure. I didn't get a call till the next morning.
It was fine the night before. The next morning when I got up to feed her, she didn't look right.
I think they should have called us and let us know what actually happened and not made up stupid stories about it.
Her head was just twisted, and she just wasn't the same dog.
One that the dog was loose for 2 days and they had no idea where she was.
A little bit of blood coming out of her mouth.
Another one that just she went out there in the morning and the dog was like, I heard several stories.
Should have come over and checked on the dog every day.
I should have got my dog out of there, but I didn't have any other options.
Yeah, I do feel bad, but I mean, what can I do?
I think she made the right decision, and I greatly appreciate it.
Well done.
Case.
All parties in the matter of Garrett versus Cook. Step forward, please.
Hotel clerk Alan Garrett is suing the mother of his child, 27-year-old student Candace Cook, for the unpaid balance on a Toyota Supra. Candace says shortly after taking ownership, the engine died.
Mr. Garrett, the defendant is your former girlfriend and you have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, but we had a relationship, yes.
Well, you weren't her math teacher, right?
No, ma'am.
You weren't her plumber, right?
No, ma'am.
In the classic sense. You had a relationship. She was a girlfriend or something.
Yes, ma'am.
You had a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've always had custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is the child?
A year and a half.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
According to your complaint, you sold Miss Cook a car.
Correct.
Back in March. It was an old car, a car that you were not using. You sold her the car for $600.
Correct.
And she acknowledges that that's what happened, correct?
Yes, he gave me a car. Well,
No,
I mean,
that's-
he didn't give it to me, but it was agreed to pay for it eventually.
You don't have any other children, do you?
I have an older child, yes.
Where is that child?
With my mother.
How old is that child?
9.
What do you do?
I'm a student at this time. I'm just now getting back to school and trying to get things together.
Where are you a student?
I'm at the Richland Community College.
Anyway, in March you sold her the car for how much, sir?
600.
And according to what I read in your complaint, you did that because she wasn't visiting your son regularly and you really wanted her to be able to visit him.
Correct.
She had the car from March, is that right? Until
believe so.
September, is that right?
Yes, around that
I mean,
time.
are you together? Is there something wrong?
We're not. No, I'm just... He didn't said it wasn't for visit. It was because he said he wanted me to get a job and everything else.
A job would be nice here.
And so, you know,
Job would be nice. What do you do? You have 2 children. Somebody else takes care of both of your children. You should be working. Who is this?
This is my roommate.
This is your roommate. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Good. What kind of a job do you have?
I'm a computer technician.
What are your hours of work?
It's usually afternoon 1 to 10 p.m.
That's a full day. Do you have, I'm speaking, do you have children?
No, I do not.
So you support yourself?
Yes.
That's what people do when they have themselves to take care of, or in your roommate's case, when she has 2 children that are being supported by other people. They get a job. Now you can sit down. Perfect. Now, she ran the car and had the car in her possession until September, when, according to you, what happened to the car?
The engine blew, so I parked it. And then I called him and said, it's calling. I'm going to call a junkyard. And then once I get that money, I'll give you the money that I get from the junkyard. Well, I get a call from some guy I don't even know, never met, never anything, saying he's going to come get the car that Alan told him to come and get it. So that's where it turns up. I gave the car to somebody else. I don't even have
somebody
it.
to pick up the car?
A friend of mine that I had originally got the car from expressed interest in it. I told him the story about what had happened to it. For whatever reason, he was interested in the car. I said, well, if you want to talk to her about it, I'll give you her phone number, and I passed that information along so he could call her.
But he didn't give you the car. Did he give you any money for the car?
No, ma'am.
No. So you're at your $600, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all. Get a job.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought the judgment was fair, kind of what I expected.
Well, I don't agree with it because his friend has the car.
Went quick, there wasn't much to say.
I drove the car for a while, but he wasn't driving it anyway.
I'm pretty poor and I needed my money.
We'll probably still be friends.
I have no hard feelings at all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Andrews versus Amadon Danforth. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Kathleen Andrews is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, 15-year-old student Leanna Danforth, and her mother, Amber Amadon, for the cost of a cell phone. Kathleen claims Leanna smashed the phone when she caught her son cheating.
No. How old are you?
17.
17. Girlfriend? Former girlfriend?
Yes.
Your name?
Leanna.
Your name?
Josh.
All right, Miss Andrews, you bought Josh a phone.
Yes.
Leanna got angry with him because she found out, or she believes she found out, that he wasn't faithful in their relationship, and somehow the phone got broken, right?
Yes.
How'd you break the phone?
I smashed it.
And you want her to pay for the phone?
Yes.
And you say you don't have to pay for the phone because that's what he gets for cheating?
Yes.
Ah. You're suing on behalf of your son because he's 17. You're 17?
15.
15. Don't you all have better things to do with your time? How much was this telephone?
$108.
Josh, you go to high school?
Yes.
What time do you go to high school, Josh?
9 a.m. to 2:25 p.m.
And what do you do at 2:25?
I go home.
What do you do when you get home?
Whatever I'm doing that day.
Like? Do you ever have a job?
Yeah, I go to work.
It's what we're talking about, Josh. Where do you go to work?
I work at Wendy's.
How many hours a week?
About 20.
Do you have a new cell phone?
No.
Why not?
I didn't buy one yet.
But you're going to.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
With the money that you get from your job, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Then your mother's not out any money. Look, Miss Andrews, your son is 17 years old. You want Miss Amadon to be responsible for her 15-year-old daughter's hissy fit, right?
Yes.
She had a hissy fit because she got a text message on the phone from a girl, right?
Right.
Now, Miss Amadon, she doesn't know anything about this hissy fit that her daughter pulled off, right?
Right.
I'm going to try to give you an analogy that probably is not a really very good analogy, but I'm going to run it up the flagpole anyway. Let's say, instead of having a hissy fit, Leanne, because the hissy fit is not right, took the phone, smashed it, right?
Yes.
Because maybe he didn't do the right thing socially, right? You have another friend that was text messaging you?
Yes.
Let's say one of these two teenagers gave the other a sexually transmitted disease. You think that either one of you mothers would be responsible for that?
No.
No. So why do you think Miss Amadon should be responsible for her daughter's hissy fit?
Because the phone was in my name. And I got it so I could keep track of him, you know, so I could call and check where he was going, who he was with, type deal. And
he used it for other things, too. I don't see Mrs. Amadon paying for her daughter's hissy fit. So you're going to buy yourself a new phone from your money at Wendy's, right?
Yes.
This is a very, very good lesson for you, Josh. Women don't like to be made a fool of. Sometimes they cut your clothes in half with you in them. Sometimes they take bleach and they pour it all over the interior of your car. That's what women do. Right?
yes.
Men don't react that way. You know, they just go out there and get dirty. Women think about how they're going to get even. So I want you to think about that next time you have a girlfriend and decide that while you have an exclusive girlfriend, you decide to be a non-exclusive. That's not saying you have to be exclusive. I think you should play the field until you're 40 if you want to. But if you decide to be exclusive and you're messing around, I want you to expect the unexpected. It always happens. Got it?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think that she was wrong in breaking the phone.
She smashed it. That's the bottom line.
Jealousy.
It don't matter why she smashed it. That was irrelevant to the whole entire thing. She smashed my phone. That's the bottom line.
He was talking to some other girl.
I wasn't being honest with her.
He's a player.
I'm not a player.
I'm not going to buy no more phones.
19-year-old student Kristen Carmichael is suing her mother, homemaker Catherine Welk, for cashing in savings bonds purchased for her by her great-grandmother. Kristen also claims her mother owes for an unpaid loan.
Now, this is case number 280 on the calendar in the matter of Carmichael versus Welk.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Carmichael, this is your mother.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
Had you always lived with your mother?
Yes.
Until when?
Last September, the end of last September.
According to your complaint, your mother owes you $5,000. $2,000 of that represents money that she allegedly really stole from you because she cashed in some savings bonds that had been purchased for you by your great-grandmother.
Yes.
She cashed in those bonds and used the money.
Yes.
And in addition, you say that you loaned your mother $3,000 in order to secure the services of an attorney because she was going through a divorce or separation from her husband. Shortly thereafter, she reconciled with him and she never gave you the money back. Your mother says she used the money as her grandmother would have wanted her to use it, the money from your bonds, and that the $3,000 that she acknowledges that you gave her for an attorney was a gift. That's your defense. Is that right? Okay. When did Kristen's great-grandmother purchase these bonds for her?
She began purchasing them in 1990.
She purchased them for any of her other great-grandchildren?
Yes.
How many?
The 2 other children.
Your 2 other children?
Mm-hmm.
How old are those children?
Amanda, that's sitting there.
Is how old?
She's 23, and my youngest is 11.
When did you cash in Kristen's bonds, and why?
It was right after my grandmother had passed away. She passed away on March the 9th, 2000.
And why did you cash in Kristen's bonds?
Because at the time that my grandmother passed away, her estate went into probate and they froze all the accounts. I did not have the funds to pay for her funeral situation.
2000 is when your grandmother died. How many children benefited from her estate, ultimately?
I did.
You. And in what amount?
When it finished.
When it finished.
That was December 30th. Go ahead. Okay, there was approximately $20,000.
Did you use your other 2 children's bonds?
The bonds were kept. As far as I know, 2 other bonds from my youngest daughters were used. My oldest daughter had already cashed all of her bonds.
How much did you get for your this daughter's bonds?
I do not recall. I don't have the paper for it.
I do.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
$17 bonds, each with a $100 face value. Mm-hmm. And if held to maturity, which would have been a couple of years from now, they would have been worth $1,700. So now you had an emergency. Let us assume, Miss Welk, you had an emergency. And while I'm not condoning the fact that you took your daughter's bonds and cashed them in at a much lesser value than you would have gotten had they been held to maturity, why didn't you replace them when you got $20,000 from your grandmother's estate?
At the time that all of this occurred, we had all of these other things going on. When all of this changed, we also had no place to live. The house was sold because it was in this whole situation. We then had to move, taking Kristen with us. After all of that was done, I didn't even remember this entire situation until this divorce situation came up in 2003.
Well, you owe us $1,700, period, for the bonds. Outrageous. Your conduct is outrageous. That's one. Number two, your daughter says that she loaned you $3,000. Why did you loan your mother $3,000?
Because her and my stepfather were going, he served her with papers for divorce, and I wanted to help her out. She came to me and asked me to borrow $3,000.
Where did you get $3,000 from?
I got it. I worked at a gymnastics place, and I got money from there, and my father died, and I received Social Security checks every month.
Do you put the Social Security checks away?
Yes, I put them into my bank account.
Let me see the bank account.
That's the bank statements.
On June 18th, she transferred $3,000 into your checking account. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was for the purposes of securing an attorney in your matrimonial case?
Correct.
And then, according to your answer, within a week, you and your husband reconciled.
Right.
Why didn't you give her back the money?
Because first of all, it wasn't a loan. She gave that to me hoping to be able to end this situation and move us back to Stockton where her friends were.
Just a second. Did you come to her and ask her for money
No,
to
ma'am,
go to an attorney?
No, ma'am.
What was the $3,000 to be used for?
It was used for the attorney.
Just a second. Are you telling me that you gave the attorney $3,000 and within a week's time the attorney would not give you back the $3,000? Is that what you're telling me?
I can show you what he
No, listen to me very carefully. Don't show me anything. Are you telling me that she gave you the $3,000 for the purposes of securing an attorney, that you gave the attorney a retainer of $3,000, within days you reconciled with your husband, and are you telling me the attorney did not give you your retainer or most of it back? I'm going to call the attorney.
I have it right
I'm
here.
going to call the attorney because I have to, because you understand, don't you, that that would be unethical for the attorney to have kept the $3,000 if the attorney did no work.
He returned $889 of the $3,000, and I have his bill here if you would like to see how he used it.
Sure, give it to me. Well, let me ask you this question. How much of the $800 that you claimed the attorney gave you back did you give to your daughter? I asked you a question. How much of the $800 that he gave you back did you give to your daughter?
I didn't.
You're some piece of work.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Children take from their parents. Parents don't take from their children.
And later today,
when I found out that he was having a baby with the other lady, I asked him if he was going to be with me or her, and he couldn't tell me.
You couldn't make up your mind.
Correct.
Couldn't find your mind.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Kristen Carmichael says her mother, Catherine Welk, cashed in savings bonds purchased for her by her great-grandmother. Catherine says Kristen gave her that money.
Is this June 18th, 2003 or 2004 that you gave this money to your mother?
2003.
2003. And your mother says that within a couple of days, or within a week, she reconciled with her husband. Then what is all this stuff here from September of 2003 from the attorney? If you reconciled with your husband, why is he still doing things in September of 2003?
I questioned him also.
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. Has absolutely nothing to do with this case. You owe your daughter $3,000. For that, you owe your daughter $1,700 for the bonds. $4,700. Listen. Children take from their parents. Parents don't take from their children. You're supposed to, if you bury your grandmother, it's your responsibility. It's not her responsibility. If you get the money back, which you did, which you clearly did, immediately, if you had an emergency, you reimburse your daughter. And if you're having a problem with your husband, and if your daughter is nice enough to give you money because you asked for it, for an attorney, and if within a week you reconcile, then you say, honey, here's your $3,000 back that you've been working for. I wouldn't take that money from you, instead of giving her a whole bunch of excuses. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,700.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That was my money that I loaned to my mom.
I didn't come to her asking for it. She gave it to me.
She needed to pay me back.
And all it's done is teach me a lesson that my youngest daughter will pay the price for this daughter.
We got into an argument over something absolutely ridiculous, and we got into a confrontation and she kicked me out.
It's very difficult. I have worried day in and day out since she left our house, not knowing where she is or how she is. She does not care about any of us.
I would like us to have a mother-daughter relationship, but I don't know.
Construction worker David Falk is suing the mother of his child, homemaker Tammy Williams, and her husband Steve for attorney fees due to a restraining order. The Williams are countersuing, claiming David filed false charges with Child Protective Services.
This is case number 219 on the calendar in the matter of Falk versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judge Price has been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Falk, you and Mrs. Williams had a relationship for a brief period of time, I understand from your papers, while her husband was incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of that relationship, you have a child, a son.
Yes, ma'am.
Her husband was released from prison, and it is your claim that after you made attempts to see your son, they filed false charges of stalking and harassment against you. You want the costs that you incurred as a result of those proceedings. Mr. and Mrs. Williams say that everything that they said in those petitions were true, that you were annoying, harassing, stalking them, that the reason the case was dismissed was because for some legitimate reason they couldn't make it to the hearing, but everything that they said was true. And they are counterclaiming because they say that you called Child Protective Services and made allegations against them as parents of your son.
Yes.
Okay. When did you go to jail, Mr. Williams?
April of 2002.
And how long had you and Mrs. Williams been married up until that point?
We've been married since 1997.
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
3 children together.
When did you start to see Mr. Falk?
Approximately about 2 years ago.
Give me the month and year. Don't ask him, he was in jail.
I was in jail.
Do you know Mr. Falk?
I think it was around September, somewhere in there.
September of 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your son born, Mr. Falk?
October 9th, 2003.
Now, when were you released from jail, Mr. Williams?
June the 1st of this year, 2004.
Did you know about this new baby that came into the family?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you find out about this new baby?
I had actually found out while she was pregnant. She did write me and tell me about the relationship between her and Mr. Falk. That is when we started reconciling. We had been separated for a little while I was in prison.
You mean you were separated before you went to prison?
No, when I went to prison, she split up with me because I went back to prison because she told me if I went to prison, she couldn't handle the situation.
How many times have you been to prison, sir?
I've been to prison twice. This was a probation violation, what I went back for.
What were you violated for?
Not paying monies, and I couldn't pay the restitutions on the case.
Not paying restitution? You were violated for not making restitution in what kind of case, sir?
Obtaining property by false pretense, checks, worthless and bad checks.
So how many times were you arrested for writing bad checks?
Several times. I went through a period, I wrote the checks over a period of time.
Over a period of what time?
1998, 1997.
2 years?
Yes, ma'am.
So this wasn't a one-shot deal where you wrote a couple of bad checks and you were arrested?
They were wrote over a few months period, but over 2 years I kept, as they come in and
so
would go
they
to
were
court.
written over a period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you cashed them over a period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
As I said, this was not a one-shot deal?
No, ma'am.
All right.
You're correct.
So that's what your wife... You always get there.
Yeah.
So that's what your wife is saying. She said to you, if you get arrested again, we're finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds right to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, after your husband was released from jail, you decided to reconcile. Is that right, Miss Williams?
Yes.
That was in June, so that your baby was 8 months old.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do?
I accepted my husband for him to come into the home. We worked it out, and everything.
And what did you do about Mr. Falk and his wanting to see his son?
Mr. Falk has never called. He's only made harassing phone calls or drive by the house.
When did he ask to see his son?
He never has, Your Honor.
Was he present when the child was born?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there we go. That's a one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when the child was born, he was there.
Yes, Your Honor.
And where did you go after you left the hospital when the child was born?
I think I went to his house.
So you lived with him for a period of time with the child?
He lived with me in my house. We just...
Fine. He lived with you for a period of time after the child was born?
After the child was born, I don't think he was.
Did you ever spend the night with her after your son was born?
Yeah, I did, because we went down to my mother's house for Thanksgiving and spent the night down there. So we did.
That was in November of 2003, when the baby was just about a month old.
Yes,
you remember that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I would assume that for a period of time before your husband got out of jail, there was regular communication between the two of you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. That's what I'm trying to get at. Before your husband got out of jail, there was regular communication with Mr. Falk. He was there when the baby was born, took you home from the hospital, you went to visit his mother Thanksgiving time, you went with the baby. Did you take your other children with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so what happened? Why did you stop allowing him regular contact with his son?
I felt that it was nice for him to see his son, just being a nice mother.
Why did you stop him from seeing his son?
I don't know.
Well, did that coincide with the time when your husband was released from prison?
It wasn't around that time. He was still in prison.
Why did you stop him from seeing his son?
Because I had got this ex parte violence protective order.
Let me see it. That doesn't answer my question, Miss Williams. There was a period of time when everything was okay and he was seeing his son and you were visiting his mother and you were traveling as a family practically. Now, something happened when you decided not to let him see his son.
Because he was calling me, making threatening calls.
Something happened before that. You're down visiting his mother in November for Thanksgiving. Christmas. What happened?
I just wanted to end the relationship.
That's right. You wanted to end the relationship. And did you tell him that?
Not so many words, Your Honor.
What words did you use, Mrs. Williams?
I was mostly avoiding him.
Right. And when you were mostly avoiding him, that means he couldn't see his son. Right? Because you had the child in your custody.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting where I'm going?
Yes, Your Honor.
She wanted to end the relationship. She didn't tell him she wanted to end the relationship. She just started to avoid him.
She's leaving half the stuff out. She's
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been around longer than you've been born. We understand each other.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
not a new story, just
ma'am.
new faces on the story.
Yes, ma'am.
She wanted to end it because you and she, according to you, were coming together.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote you about the baby. You decided to reconcile. She had to break it off. She didn't want to make any trouble by telling him she wanted to break it off, so she just didn't take his phone calls, which means he couldn't see his child. So he started calling her on the telephone. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, Mr. Williams. That's what happened. So then she goes and files this protective order, and she says, he's harassing me. He's driving by my house. He's leaving threatening messages. Well, what did you expect him to do if you wouldn't let him see his child? Did you expect him to go away?
No, Your Honor.
Well, what did you expect him to do? Now, when your husband got out of prison, your husband put his name on the baby's birth certificate. Is that right, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And you did that knowing that you were not this child's father, and you did that for the explicit purpose of seeing to it that Mr. Falk did not see his son and was not... Oh. Well, what other reason could there have been... What other reason could there have been, Mr. Williams, for you, knowing that you were not the child's father, to put your name on the child's birth certificate instead of the child's father's name?
He never accepted from day one while he was at the hospital to be allowed on the birth certificate. He refused to be put on the birth certificate.
I want to explain something to you, Mr. Williams. That is a lie.
No.
Because as long as she's married to somebody else, he is not permitted by law to put his name on the birth certificate unless he is adjudicated by a court as the father of the child. I'm 10 steps ahead of you, sir.
Okay.
He took the child home from the hospital. He was there when the child was born. A month later, he went to visit his mother with your wife and your 3 children for Thanksgiving. Month after that, he went to his mother's home for Christmas with your 3 children and the child. And then your wife decides to go back with you. She avoids his telephone calls. He gets miserable and frustrated. You get out of prison, you say, we're going to resolve this once and for all. I'm going to put my name on the child's birth certificate. That's going to cut him off. Well, it didn't cut him off.
May I respond to that, please?
Yeah, you sure may.
He is trying to disrupt us and split us up because he wants Tammy back. I don't have any problem
He doesn't
with
want her
being
back.
father.
Trust me. He doesn't want her back. His mother doesn't want her back. Your wife fooled around while you were in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I make a comment on that, please?
Sure.
I was in church. I was vulnerably hurt. He took advantage of that situation.
Madam, you were married and had 3 children. Nobody took advantage of you. Nobody forced you. Nobody tied you to a bed. You got it? Take responsibility for your own actions. You have to behave in an orderly fashion, which is, if you have a relationship with somebody and you make a baby with them, you don't decide like this that I'm going to cut them off, which is what you did, without an explanation, without a sit down, without a discussion. Say, listen, we have to end this relationship because I'm going to go back to my husband. That doesn't mean that I'm going to take the baby away from you. Let's go to court. You'll be declared the father of the baby. We'll set up a visitation schedule. You'll be able to visit with him when you like. Instead, you decide just not to answer your phone. That's what you told me. And then when he gets annoyed and starts making harassing phone calls, you go to court and you get an ex parte protective order against him. And then when it's set for trial, you don't show up. And it's dismissed. Those are the costs he wants.
Excuse me.
She didn't show up. Now, you say she had a really good reason for not showing up. Show me a doctor's record that she was in a hospital.
Actually, we were in Superior Court in another county.
For what?
A 4-year-old check that they're trying to bring up now that I've paid off.
That didn't stop her from going to court, sir.
She was the witness in my case.
Did you notify the court?
Yes, we did.
Show me where you notified the court before.
I didn't know I needed it today.
Well, where'd you think you were coming to, a tea dance?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, David Falk says the mother of his child, Tammy Williams, falsely accused him of stalking and harassment. David also claims Tammy and her husband won't let him see his son.
What were your costs with regard to defending this action for a protective order?
$3,800. I had to hire a lawyer.
Let me see the lawyer's bill. Did you pay this bill?
I paid $1,800 so far.
Mr. Falk, what arrangements are you trying to make legally to get to visit with this child?
Try to get complete custody of him. I've got that filed now.
Did they order blood tests?
We're in the process of getting that done now, too. Well, it's got to be a court order because she refuses to give DNA.
No.
No what?
We were actually told by our attorneys that he was wanting to drop this now because I'm willing to take responsibility for the child and be the child's father.
That right, sir?
No, ma'am. It's still
that
pending.
From his
it's pending
attorney,
now August the 22nd.
So what you're telling me now, Mrs. Williams, listen to me very carefully, is if the court wants you to go for a blood test, you are consenting to go for a DNA test with this baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Do you understand? Now, as part of this proceeding, there is a counterclaim. The counterclaim suggests, Mr. Falk, that you called Child Protective Services on them. Show me.
We did have the letter, and we cannot find that cleared her.
I just want, listen to me, I just want proof that he called Child Protective Services and it was false.
That's the one thing we did not have. Sorry.
Well, Mr. Williams, I can't help you, sir.
I know.
Okay. You owe him $3,500, which is what he paid for his lawyer for this bogus case that you filed against him, Miss Williams. Listen to me very carefully. You made a mistake. You had an affair while your husband was away. He's the father of this child, according to you. He wants to see this child. He wants to be part of this child's life. Now, that may be inconvenient for you because you are now reconciled with your husband. That doesn't mean you can cut him off. If he chooses not to be a good father, if he chooses not to support the child once he has an order of visitation, and if he chooses to abandon this child, then you can cut him off. But you can't decide to do that on your own. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's made frivolous things that I am abusive to my wife and children.
She had told everybody in the church her husband was abusive towards her and the kids.
He shot his ex-wife.
She was the one chasing after me.
Because he's beat her, she's scared to say anything.
She told me she wasn't going to go back to her husband, and, you know, he was so mean.
I can't take my children to shopping in the same county we live in.
The Lord will take care of it, and he did. The Lord brought it out right here.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Up versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Web coordinator Debbie Up is suing her former co-worker, computer consultant Thomas Rodriguez, for unpaid rent and a loan to buy a computer. Thomas claims Debbie gave him the computer as a gift.
Miss Up, Mr. Rodriguez was a friend of yours. You allowed him to move into your house for a short period of time. You claimed that he owes you for a month's rent.
Correct.
And in addition, you advanced him on your credit money to buy a computer.
Correct.
According to you, he agreed to make the payments to the company. He made a couple, but when he left, he stopped making the payments, and you want those payments.
Correct.
Mr. Rodriguez says that the computer was very lovely, but it was in fact a gift from you. And second, he says that he doesn't owe you any money for rent. He was out of your home, and you had agreed to allow him to store some stuff there until he could get it out, but he doesn't owe you for the month, I think it was July. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you move into Miss Up's home, sir?
Well, at the time, I didn't have a place to stay, so I...
Why didn't you have a place to stay?
Well, I had an argument with the girlfriend, and I didn't have a place to stay, and she offered me a place to live at.
How did you know her?
I know her from work. We've worked with each other before, and I've known her for about 3 years.
What kind of work?
Auto sales.
Why did you invite him to come to live in your home?
Well, we had been friends for a couple of years, and we had done a lot of stuff together, hung out together, gone to movies together, things like that.
Just the two of you?
Yeah. I knew he needed a place to live, and I had an extra bedroom, and I said, you know, for a couple $100s a month, you can rent my room in my house.
Did he give you any money towards rent while he lived there?
Yes, he did. He moved in the end of November, actually Thanksgiving weekend. He paid me for the month of December mid-month. I had agreed that he could pay me mid-month instead of being strapped at the end of the month.
Fine. So he paid you for December, January, February, March, April, May, and June?
And June.
What happened in June?
In June, he, as he said, he had gotten back together with a girlfriend. He ended up not spending a lot of time at home while they were renewing their relationship. So he spent many nights away, still had a key, still had a garage door opener, came and went as he pleased. And
still had clothes there?
Still had clothes there. He had...
This was the month of June or July?
Actually, both. He, I guess, renewed this relationship sometime in mid-June, and throughout July they kept going and decided that that was going to be... I presume that they're still in a relationship. I have no idea.
Good. When did you get your last bit of stuff out of the house, sir?
End of June, early July.
Well, you have to pay for July if you still had stuff there in July, sir.
Well, I had already previously paid her for that month already in the middle of June. Like on June 21st was the last time I paid her for the rent.
Did you stay there at all in July?
No, I wasn't there at all in July.
Yes, he did. He, like I said, he came and went as he pleased in June, and in July, in fact, he spent July 4th weekend at home because I guess his girlfriend was out of town.
Does that sound familiar?
No, actually, July, I wasn't there at all.
July 4th weekend she's talking about,
yeah,
sir. July,
I was there to pick up my personal items.
Okay.
All
right, let's get to the computer, which is really what we're talking about, because the rent is $200. Let's get to the computer. When did he buy the computer?
In May, I had agreed that he could use my credit with the conditions that he would make the monthly payments, but he had also said that he would try to pay it off as soon as possible because he doesn't like to have debt. He made the computer arrived. He made the June payment of $103. He made the July payment.
Who did he make the June payment to?
Actually, he paid me, and then I paid the company.
Gave you in cash?
Check.
You have a copy of the check, sir?
No, I don't have a copy of the check.
Why not?
I didn't realize I would need it.
Copy of your check register, sir.
No, actually, I don't have that with me.
Why don't you have it with you?
I wasn't aware that I would actually need it.
Of course you need it. Where did you think you were coming? Why would she, Mr. Rodriguez, buy you a computer worth thousands of dollars?
She said it was a gift. She said that...
Mr. Rodriguez, I want you to listen to my words. Why would she buy you a gift worth thousands of dollars?
Because she had feelings for me.
And you had no feelings for her?
No, I told her.
The answer is either yes or no. Is that right?
Yes.
So you had no feelings for her in any other way
No.
other than a friend. So why would you encourage her feelings for you by accepting a gift worth thousands of dollars?
I figured, I thought about it, and I figured I wouldn't look good, a gift horse in the mouth, and I figured, I would take it.
Oh, dear.
Do you honestly, Mr. Rodriguez, believe that this lady finds you attractive?
Actually, what happened was, about a month in June, she actually told me...
She's an intelligent, appears to be at least an intelligent, working woman. Why would she spend thousands of dollars on you when you can't even afford to a decent place to live?
Well, that wasn't the case. The thing was I was just trying to avoid getting to a lease.
Just a second. You mean you could afford a decent place to live?
Yes.
You have children, Mr. Rodriguez?
I have a daughter.
How old?
13.
Do you support her?
Yes.
How much do you send?
$285.23 every 2 weeks, so about $600.
Do they take that money out of your pay, sir?
Yes, I have taken out my check each month.
No, they take it out of your pay. Because there was probably a time when you weren't paying regular child support, so they decided to take it out of your pay, correct?
Well, I would make payments arrangements with her mom.
Listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm 10 steps ahead of you, sir. You weren't making regular child support payments, so they decided to do it by income deduction order and taking it out of your pay. Does that sound right?
Well, no, I've always paid her mom, for whatever she needed.
You mean diapers for your teenage daughter and things like that? Diapers, Pampers, formula, that kind of thing.
Clothes, whatever she needed. Even, purchased her mom a car when she didn't have no transportation.
Let me see the bill for the computer.
This is the original.
People who use other people, Mr. Rodriguez, especially those people who rely on the fact that they think somebody, I'm speaking, that they think somebody is lonesome, and because they're lonesome and they need company, they're prepared to pay for that company, which is clearly what you thought, which I think is probably one of the most amoral things one person can do to another. We understand each other, Mr. Rodriguez?
No,
Do we understand me? That doesn't mean that you will like what I said. I want to know if you understand what I said.
I hear what you're saying.
You're going to eat the rent. But you're going to get your $2,900 for your computer. Original price of the computer was $3,152. According to you, we made 2 payments of $103, $104 each.
Correct.
It's $2,900. You still have the computer, sir?
Yes, I do.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Rodriguez, are you trying to think ahead of what would be the right answer when I'm asking you a question so that you don't again put your foot in your mouth? Is that why you're pausing?
No, I'm just listening to what you're saying.
Got it. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $2,900.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had offered several different suggestions, like him financing it through another bank, then we wouldn't have to talk to each other anymore. It seemed to be on his part that he didn't want the friendship to continue.
You would have to think, kind of twice about, saying no, but like I said, who would want to look a gift horse in the mouth?
It seemed to be on his part that he didn't want the friendship to continue.
Well, on several occasions, she's, asked me if I had feelings for her, and I told her, it was just, friends and nothing more.
I did ask him once just to clarify, if there was anything beyond friendship that he wanted, and once that was clarified, that was it.
His ex-fiancée, insurance broker Stephanie Martell, for the return of an engagement ring and for stealing from his bank account while he was in jail.
Your Honor, this is case number 86 on the calendar in the matter of Balzolari versus Martell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Balzolari, you and the defendant were engaged to be married and lived together.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, you were incarcerated for a period of time, a drug-related charge, and then went into rehab. And it is your claim that during that period of time, Miss Martell cleaned you out, took your property, took your money, broke up, and she won't return a very expensive engagement ring as well. Ms. Martell said all of that money was used to pay your bills, to pay for things for you while you were incarcerated, and she had to sell the engagement ring in order to pay those bills, right?
Right.
Okay. When did you become engaged?
Your Honor, that was approximately 4/20. I'd purchased the ring. Here's a picture and a receipt. It was shortly after that we became engaged. And,
April 20th?
Yes, somewhere around that time.
Of what year?
02.
When was the wedding supposed to take place?
There was no
Mr.
date set.
What were you waiting for?
I don't know. For us both to agree on a certain date and, you know.
Okay. So you became engaged in April of 2002 and you were living together.
Yes.
When were you incarcerated?
It wasn't a drug. I'd like to correct that, Your Honor. That wasn't a drug-related charge. It was a felony charge. It was an impersonation charge is what that was. It wasn't drug. I agreed to go into a drug court system.
Explain that to me, sir. You were convicted of what?
Criminal impersonation of a police officer. It was a felony charge, which at that time I was volunteered in a drug court in Rochester, New York.
Well, what did criminal impersonation have to do with drugs, sir? Why would you be placed in a drug court? I'll get to you in a second.
I was
If you can't give me the answer, because I'm going to get to the answer. If you can't give me the answer, I'll allow you to help me.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Before I had that charge, Your Honor, I was in a voluntary drug outpatient program.
Okay.
And during that time when the judge seen that, at that time I picked up the charge, she says, well, if you continue to stay sober and clean and continue your drug treatment program, we will dismiss the charge. And I failed to stay clean. So he incarcerated me and asked me if I wanted to do the time or do I want to help myself and change.
Mr. Borzelli, is what you're telling me, sir, that you pled guilty to criminal impersonation as a felony? The judge allowed you to remain at liberty as long as you were in a drug rehab program and remain drug-free. Is that what you're telling me?
No, there was no plea. My choice was...
Can I see those papers, please?
This was my whereabouts. The judge says, if you stay clean, we'll drop the charges and we're going to put you in drug court. Simple. If you stay clean for a year, we drop your charges. Conditional discharge.
Now I'll hear you, because this doesn't sound all right to me.
Exactly. We were friends. This is before we started dating. He was caught downtown in a well-known drug hotel impersonating a police officer. They forced him to go into drug court. It wasn't voluntary for him.
And then I assume that as part of this agreement that you had with the judge, you tested positive for drugs at some point?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you went into jail. And you went into jail, according to this,
The
on the 12th of January 2004 to the 20th of February 2004.
Correct.
So for a little more than 6 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. And is it during that time that you claim that Miss Martell cleaned you out?
Oh, yes.
Okay. During that 6-week period?
No, not entirely.
Well, when?
Well, cleaning out, I don't know where the cleaning out comes from, but I have a telephone bill. When she moved in, Your Honor, she was 6 months behind in her mortgage. She says, I want to get away from my ex-husband.
When are you talking about? What year?
02, when she moved in.
I'm not interested in 02. Pay careful attention to me.
What are you interested in?
1/12/04 until 2/20/04.
Okay.
Period.
Here's a bill. She agreed to pay my phone bill, never did.
Mr. Borzelli?
Yes.
Get to it, sir.
Get to it?
Yes. I'm not
Phone
interested
bill,
in the phone bill.
cable bill she didn't pay. Here's the pictures I have from my house.
I'm not interested in whether she didn't pay bills for 6 weeks, sir.
Okay, so what are you interested in?
Well,
I have a bill here, Your Honor.
It was
my home that I paid
I'm
somebody.
Speaking, sir.
Go ahead.
You're asking me, and I'm telling you. It
Okay.
was my impression, sir, that what you were suing her for were two things. Personal property and reimbursement of money taken without authorization is what
Okay.
you're suing for, plus the return or value of the engagement ring.
Okay, thank you. Right here, Your Honor, is a receipt from a $2,180 check. Mr. Grimes here, my witness, has cashed it, gave her $2,180. She only paid a mortgage payment of $960, and that's all. I have missing money.
So is what you're telling me that she cashed a check for $2,000 and that was your money?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that she didn't pay sufficient amount of bills to cover that $2,100?
Yes.
Okay. She paid $900 in a mortgage. She did pay that
Yes,
for
she
that
did.
period
Almost
of time.
$1,000.
Here's the receipt, ma'am. It's
How much is the mortgage?
It was
The
almost
mortgage-
$1,000.
Excuse me. I have a receipt.
Just tell me how much it was.
$979.
Okay, so that's
For the
close to
mortgage.
$1,000. So that's
Thank you.
$979 out of $979 out of the $2,100 that she cashed. Okay, what else did you pay for out of that money?
$600 of Rochester Gas and Electric.
Your Honor, I have a receipt here for $1,000. She didn't pay squat. Or nothing, I should say.
Mr. Borzelli, put down your paper, sir. Okay. Where's the other $600?
$200 from, this is what I wanted to say before, in December of 2002, he was incarcerated for a positive drug test. He went to jail for a week. I had $200 for that week of collect calls. When he went to jail the next time...
I'm not interested in 2002. What else?
Commissary money I brought to the jail.
How much?
I believe $80.
Okay, little bits of money. Let's talk about the engagement ring. Gave you an engagement ring. Clearly, it is an engagement ring. It's a solitaire. Where is it?
I sold it.
Did you?
Yes.
When? Look at me.
February.
Don't look in the air.
February of this year.
Show me. Show me.
I don't have a
receipt. You sell a $14,000 ring. You have a receipt. You have something.
I sold it to a family jeweler.
I don't believe you. You're lying to me. Because if you sold it to a family jeweler and you knew you were coming to court, you would have said to the jeweler, can I have a receipt for the ring that I sold?
I could have, yes.
Well, where did you think you were coming today? To a tea dance?
No.
You were coming to court.
Right.
Court takes evidence. You're full of baloney.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Robert Borzelli says ex-fiancée Stephanie Martell owes for the return of money and an engagement ring. Stephanie claims she sold the ring to pay bills while Robert was locked up.
Okay, it wasn't your ring. Now, even if you sold it, you had no right to sell it. It was your ring only if the contract to get married to Mr. Borzelli was consummated. It was not. The ring is given as a gift in contemplation of a marriage. Your argument is that you had to sell the ring to pay off bills. What bills did you have to pay off? What?
To maintain, he asked me to stay in his house and to maintain his
6
house.
weeks. What bills did you have to pay in 6 weeks that he did not cover with the $2,100 that you took out of his account?
I had to come up with money to move out of the house.
That's your problem. Are you over 18?
Yes.
Deal with it. That's your problem. That's not his problem. What?
I was just going to say that first and foremost...
Say something by standing up.
Sure.
What?
First and foremost, she was responsible enough to do what she had to do to take the engagement ring and sell it to her family jeweler.
I don't believe her, and I don't believe you. She did not sell this ring to a family jeweler, because if she did, the jeweler is responsible by law to give her a receipt. Do you understand?
I do understand.
And this wasn't a little ring for $300. This was a solitaire, which she paid over $14,000 for. And if you expect me to believe that she sold that ring in February to pay bills for him, which is what she alleges in his answer, I don't buy it.
That's
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, which is the maximum that I can award to you, sir. I want you to listen to me very carefully. You can put everything else away. I'm not interested at all about any other money she owes you, because the ring covers it. Do you understand?
Clearly.
I assume that you sued her in small claims court because it's the only way that you thought you'd get any money at all, and you wouldn't have to hire a lawyer to sue her civilly anyplace else. You are entitled to that ring back, because an engagement ring is not an absolute gift until the marriage is fulfilled, and it was never fulfilled, right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff. Out.
Parties are excused.
It's wrong on his part. The reason we didn't get married was his actions.
I gotta hand it to Miss Martell. I really do. She's very consistent. Every time her lips move, there's a lie.
I didn't want to be with him anymore, and he was upset by that.
You've heard of that deal saying, good pet's gone bad? Well,
He was threatening me because I wanted to move out for a while for him to straighten up.
I'm threatening am I? 140 pounds, 5'4". Ooh.
Waitress Michelle Downer is suing her former friend, 27-year-old project manager Jason Gallahue, for assaulting her and vandalizing her car. Jason is countersuing, claiming Michelle broke the front door to his house.
This is case number 69 on the calendar in the matter of Downer versus Gallahue. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Downer, according to the complaint that I've read, you allege that the defendant assaulted you and also broke your car with a rock or a brick.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher said he was merely trying to help you from hurting yourself because you were drunk. He is counterclaiming because he says that while drunk, you broke the door to his home.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you tell me first how you know him?
I met him through mutual friends and then started hanging out with his sister and started hanging out with him.
When did this incident happen?
On April 10th, around 3:30 or 4 a.m. in the morning.
Where had you been?
Working.
Where do you work?
Well, I previously worked at a bar on the Landing in St. Louis.
All right, let's go to April 9th. Okay. Where were you on April 9th at about 11 o'clock in the evening?
Working.
And where was Mr. Gallagher?
I don't know.
When did you first see him? At what time?
When I was getting off work around...
What time?
Around 2:30.
Where did you see him?
He was at a bar next door, and I walked out of mine and saw him in the parking lot.
And what did you do?
Said hi, just greeted each other. We were friends. Ended up giving him a ride home.
Why did you give him a ride home?
He's a friend.
How did he get to the bar?
How
did you get to the bar?
I was down there with a couple other friends that were going to give me a ride home. Till Michelle asked me if she wanted to give me a ride home. So I'll go home with you.
And
we left. And on the way, he tried some things and said no. And we got back to his house, and that's when all of the...
Well, he tried some things. What do you mean he tried some things, Ms. Downing?
He was trying to put the moves on me, I guess you would say.
Okay.
Sexually trying to do things.
Okay. And you said, not interested. So you got to his house.
Yes.
And?
And as I reversed and put my car in park, and it was in the middle of the street, and he took my keys out of the ignition and ran inside his house.
And?
And I followed him in, grabbed my purse out of my car, and went in. And that's when I asked him, hey, can I have my keys back? At first it was funny because we're friends, and he was just playing a joke, but then it was late in the morning, and I wanted to go home. And he wouldn't give me my keys back, and it went on for a while, and then I started getting upset because I wanted to go home. Then we started getting an argument. One thing happened, and he spit in my face. So I slapped him on the cheek, and that's when he pushed me into the door. And that's when I got the eye, when I got hit on my eye.
And then?
I went outside and took his phone with me and called my mom to see if she had a spare key, if there's a spare key in my car. She said yes. So I grabbed that key, went back inside, and got my purse.
You mean after he hurt your eye, you went back inside for your purse?
Yeah.
He's just assaulted you, according to you.
Well, yes. But I still wanted my personal belongings. I mean, I have various credit cards in there that I really thought, it would be responsible to go back in and get my purse so that he couldn't take
badly
them.
were you hurt when you hit the door with your eye?
Yes. I was
Not
crying.
yet. I said how badly. That is
how badly?
A quantitative thing. You have to say I was hurt very badly. I wasn't hurt a lot. Not yet.
I mean, it hurt. Not badly, but it definitely hurt.
Were you afraid of him?
Yes.
Then why did you go back for your pocketbook?
I don't know. I wanted it.
So you went back for your pocketbook?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
Then I went and got in my car and drove up to the gas station up the street to call her. That's when he came running around the corner with a rock in his hand, and he screamed and he threw it at my windshield, and I asked the gas station attendant if he saw it. He said yes. And
Don't tell me what the gas station
Okay,
attendant
sorry.
said to you. So, did the windshield break?
Yes, it shattered, and I have pictures of it.
Can I see the police report that you filed?
I didn't file a police report.
Why is that?
I was hysterical. I wanted to get out of there. I was scared of him.
You don't have to file a police report that day, Miss Downey. You file a police report the next day. He assaulted you. Not only did he assault you, but he vandalized your car. You covered by insurance?
I did not file it with my insurance company. I paid out of pocket.
Why?
I didn't want to file it to my insurance company.
You didn't want to put in a claim to the insurance company. You didn't want to notify the police that, according to you, he assaulted you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't know. He's supposed to. I mean, you don't want to send him to jail or anything. I just would rather him pay for my windshield and pay for the work that I missed.
May I have the bill that you had for your eye?
It wasn't damaged to the point where I had to go to the doctor. It was just...
Well, weren't you concerned? You would injured near your eye, could have caused all kinds of difficulty.
No.
So you didn't go to a doctor with regard to the eye?
No.
And you didn't call the police with regard to the assault or the vandalizing your car?
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess you didn't figure this was too big a deal. Now, let's go to you, Mr. Galley. I read your answer, and you have a whole different perspective on what happened on the night of April 10th.
Yeah, a lot of what she says is true. There's a few parts she missed out. Like
Okay,
we didn't
so that I don't have to be bothered with things that you agree on, why don't you just tell me the things that you don't agree with?
We did not meet in the parking lot. We met at the bar next door where my witness works. We were on the DJ booth messing around.
What does that mean, messing around?
Kissing, fondling, touching.
You mean...
Not all three of us, or me and him, her and I.
Okay. All right. Had she been working that night?
Yes, she has, which is also a club that he used to work at. The Shots girls sell shots and drink shots.
Okay. So what you're saying is when she got off of work, she came next door?
Yes.
Did you forget that?
Pardon me?
Did you forget to tell me that?
No.
Well, is it true that you went next door?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I didn't think it was pertinent.
Well, it's pertinent to tell me whether you met him in a parking lot or whether you met him in a bar and you were drinking in the bar with him before you gave him a ride home.
I didn't drink in the bar with him.
Did you drink at all that evening?
Yes, I did.
Where?
At the place that I worked at.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Downer says her former friend Jason Gallahue assaulted her and vandalized her car. Michelle says Jason was angry because she turned down his advances.
Next.
From there, we get in the car, go home. If she was leaving and just dropping me off...
Don't say if she was leaving, just dropping me off. Just tell me
Okay.
what you don't agree with, sir.
The plan was for her to come inside the house. I knew
Okay,
she
how do
was
you know
drunk.
that that was the plan, sir?
Because that's what we talked about. Actually, on the way home when we were messing around, she said, wait till we get to your house. That's how I know.
That would be a clue.
That is a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was a good clue. I mean, that's pretty much what we disagree on. We get inside, we're arguing, she is correct. I took her keys because I know she has one DWI. Got in an accident and totaled the car already. I don't want her to get in another
Had you
accident.
been drinking that night, Mr. Gallahue?
Yes.
So the both of you had been drinking.
Yes.
And she was driving.
Yes.
And you were driving in her car.
Yes.
That was foolish, right?
Correct. Tend to do foolish things.
Well, only if you're young and drunk.
Correct.
So what you're telling me is that the two of you were both under the influence of alcohol that evening and did some very stupid things.
Yes.
And did you spit at her?
Yes, I did. After I was slapped.
Okay, so you say she slapped you first.
She
So
did
you
slap me.
Why did she slap you?
Because I had her keys. I wouldn't give her her keys and let her drive home.
And I assume the plan was to come into your home and to bring to fruition the evening's earlier activities. in your
Temptation,
house.
possibly?
Yes?
Possibly.
Right? Now, was that activity accomplished?
No.
Is that perchance why you had her keys?
No. It is not why I had her
Oh.
keys.
So you had your keys because you were being a good Samaritan. No, I'm just asking you. Just answer my
Yeah, I
question.
guess you could
yes.
say that. Yes.
All right. So.
But I did lose the keys.
All right.
After
You
I
lost
took.
the keys. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she slapped you. You spit in her face. You pushed her.
Yes.
And did she hit her face when you pushed her?
I don't believe so.
You don't know.
But there is one other part that she did leave out. Whenever she was leaving and slammed the door, she did break my basement door window.
Okay. Now tell me about the rock that you gently threw, according to you. The rock that I have to quote this because I found it fascinating. You ready for this? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. She ran out of my house and slammed the door, breaking the window. I was extremely upset, so I grabbed a rock and tossed it gently at her car.
Like
Now,
ginger
so
whip?
I would like you, please, sir, to just step back for a moment. Just take 2 steps back and show me how you gently throw a rock at her car.
It might have been, I was drunk, I didn't know. I had drinks, it might have been overhanded.
And you broke the windshield on her car.
Yeah, that's where it landed.
Okay. How much did the windshield cost?
$265.69.
And how much did the window on the door cost?
I put it in myself.
So how much did it cost?
$42 for the actual window itself.
And your labor
Of course.
is free, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What do you do for a living, sir?
Actually, I'm a project manager.
For what?
Dance club.
Well, that's a nice title anyway.
Sure.
I like project manager anyway. Okay. When she broke the window in your house, did you call the police?
No.
Are you angry with her?
No.
Are you angry? Shh. Are you angry with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Get over it. Get over it. Sounds to me like you both had a little too much to drink and got pretty much what you deserved. Your case is dismissed, and so is your counterclaim. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I was attacked at the club, I was trying to fulfill her sexual needs, go back to the house. I don't know, she was obviously too drunk for that.
He's a liar.
I was there at the club that they work in. I was actually the DJ for it. You know, they were falling out of the DJ booth, stumbling drunk.
He spit in my face. That's disrespect in my book, and you don't spit in people's faces.
She was drunk. I wanted to save a friend, trying to be a good Samaritan.
He lied about advances. That was pretty much it. I still don't think I broke his door, though, but it got dismissed.
Case 2083, David versus Baroom. All parties, please step forward.
Joseph David is suing his former friend, Jonathan Borum, for podcast equipment.
Mr. David, your claim that the defendant has acoustical equipment that you purchased for what looks to be a joint venture in Mr. Borum's music podcast.
Yes, ma'am.
You were making this music podcast in the basement of your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Starting in what year?
This year of March.
And Mr. David, you were friends, you knew each other, and you knew he was in this business. I don't know, what is your business?
I deliver bread. I'm a bread vendor.
What kind of interest do you have in music? Because that's what he was doing.
Well, me and Jonathan have known each other for 20 years.
Jonathan and I have known each other.
Jonathan and I have known each other for 20 years, and he's always been in the music scene. He's an artist himself.
Well, that's what I gather. What about you?
I was just a supportive friend in it.
Okay, well, it clearly, you spent some money on music equipment, so it was more than being a supportive friend. If you were just being a supportive friend, then you made a gift to him of this music equipment.
No, ma'am.
You decided you wanted to be part of this music podcast. That's what you said.
Correct.
When did you make that decision?
Sometime mid-June after I had...
June of this year?
This year, correct. I had received a small amount of money, and I was able to...
From where?
A settlement from an
what?
injury, car accident.
Okay, how much did you receive?
A little under 50 grand. And I seen an opportunity for me to invest and help out and help a friend and be able to invest into something that if we blew up one day, I could receive, royalties from and money back in return. And
did you have a written agreement with him?
We did not have a written agreement.
Well, I'd like to know what the agreement was.
So he was also in the car accident with me as well. And so he's got a settlement coming. He told me, this was all verbal, that once he received that money, he would pay me back at least half of the equipment.
So you would have a joint venture and he would pay you for half the equipment you purchased?
This was at the beginning, correct.
Do you remember, Mr. Borum, that conversation?
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
Were you in the automobile accident with him?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
You did not receive a settlement. Is there any reason?
We're still going through the court process.
Okay, so you're going to trial.
Actually, that's what it was set to go to trial because I didn't get the offer that my lawyer put in. So it's going to trial on my side, but on his behalf.
No, he's already settled his case.
Yeah, mine's not settled yet.
Okay. You indicate what you want is your equipment back.
No, I'd like the money back.
No, well, you get your equipment back. If it's yours.
I want the money. I don't trust that he will give me the equipment back in good condition.
Let me explain this to you, Mr. David. If that's what you want, then I'm going to let you withdraw this case and go back to small claims court. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm going to dismiss your case without prejudice, which will allow you to go back to your small claims court, or do you wish to proceed with it today?
I wish to proceed.
Great.
Joseph David claims his former friend, Jonathan Borum, is wrongfully keeping his podcast equipment.
When you decided to enter this, according to you, agreement, that you would be in a joint venture, when he got his money, he would pay in his half of what the equipment costs, which you indicate, I think, is about $4,400.
Correct.
What I gather is there was a session set up that was supposed to take place in your basement.
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
I believe it was around early June-ish.
Okay. And you have proof of the value of the equipment, I assume,
Correct.
and exactly what equipment There is.
Correct.
Is there, Mr. Borum, a dispute about what equipment he purchased?
Is there a dispute? Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
because he has a receipt. I just want to know if I have to go into this.
Well, on the receipt, he purchased it on his card, but we're friends. We were going in together, so he bought it on his card because he had the money.
Oh, just a second. I understand that, Mr. Borum. I'm asking you whether there is an agreement as to what the pieces he purchased on his card.
Yes, ma'am. As far as the agreement, I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. What pieces of equipment did he buy that's in your basement?
Cameras.
Camera.
Cords.
Cord.
And probably the Black Magic.
Black Magic?
Black Magic, yes, ma'am. It's a device that works.
Do you know what he's talking about?
I do.
Anything else that's down there that you purchased other than those 3 items?
Yes, ma'am. In total...
What? Shh, look at me. Tell me what else.
In total, there's 2 Panasonic cameras.
Are there 2 cameras
Yes,
that he
ma'am.
purchased? 2 cameras.
Can I look down for...
I can't hear you if you're mumbling.
There's lighting, 3 lights. There's
3 lights. Did he purchase 3 lights?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
wireless mics.
How many?
It's a set of 2.
Did he purchase those?
Yes, ma'am. And not to correct you, but we purchased those.
No, you didn't pay for it.
I gave him the money.
Just a second.
I gave him cash.
Oh, you did? You're going to show me proof of that in a moment.
Well, I don't have proof that I gave him cash. No, ma'am. Because we were friends, so.
Just a second. Okay. You have no proof? Did he give you cash?
No, ma'am. He never gave me $1.
Fine.
Not a penny.
Okay,
not a
let's
dime.
go. We have 3 lights, 2 mics. What else?
HDMI cord.
He has a cord.
Blackmagic ATEM.
He has that.
256 gigabyte SD card.
What is that?
Memory card.
It's a $50 memory card. It adds up.
Let's go.
The card reader, 20-foot cables, a stencil, and a table.
Just a second. A stencil and a table. Describe that.
It's for the logo that we made for the podcast. I purchased the stencil for the logo.
How much did you pay for that?
Between that and the table is $80.
Let's stay with the big ticket items, sir, Henry.
I was adding
Great.
everything.
Okay. Are we finished with the list?
Yep, that's all.
Very good. How much did you pay for these things minus the $50 card in total? Show me.
Minus the $50.
Yeah.
$43.50.
Okay. And all of that is in your basement now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened, according to what I read, there was a music session scheduled. And at the time that there was a music session scheduled, your daughter had COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
She lives on top of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how old is she?
That was in July. She's 10 months now, so probably about 8 months.
Okay. And she's cared for by both you and your wife. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I gather, Mr. David, that when you found out that there was COVID in the house, you didn't want to go into the basement.
Correct.
And that was sometime in June.
Correct.
Okay, can you tell me about that conversation?
Well, he told me that she had COVID, and then he said that his fiance may possibly have it, and he may possibly have it. He even took off work, and I filled in for him at work for 3 days because he may have had COVID or not, and he said he wasn't
Well, he
feeling
wasn't. He
well.
didn't want to go in and risk it.
Correct. So I told him I do not want to continue with this interview. He said he would continue on
You
with
mean
it.
the interview that was supposed to take place in the
Correct.
basement?
Correct.
How much after, Mr. David, did you find out that the infant had COVID and that Mr. Borum and his wife were both exposed? Was the video podcast supposed to be made in the basement?
2-3 days.
Is that correct, Mr. Borum?
From anywhere between 2 to 5 days, ma'am.
And when Mr. David told you he didn't feel comfortable coming into the house, what did you say to him?
I said, okay, I would have someone else fill in his position because I understood why he didn't want to come over.
Okay, and did you have someone fill in his position?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened, Mr. Borum?
The episode got done, and it wasn't up to par with Joseph's standards. So
And?
that's when the argument begun.
Okay, and the argument was what?
The argument was the guy didn't do it right, so it was a lot of bickering. So I told Joe, I just do the editing myself. And he took that as I was cutting him out.
Okay, so he was supposed to do the editing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why did you say, I'll do the editing myself?
Because he was yelling at me, and I told him...
What was he yelling at you about?
Because he said that the product wasn't up to par. He said...
Just a second, Mr. Borum, this is your business.
Right.
Will you tell me, did you think the product was up to par?
I did, but I thought it was up to par, but I took his recommendation because I brought him in for production. So I was like, okay, if you don't feel like it's up to par, let's figure it out. But then we kept going back and forth. So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself so we can stop the confrontation. Because you didn't want to tell the guy what he did wrong. So then that's when the argument started, and he thought that I was kicking him out, which I never told him he couldn't come over, never told him he couldn't be a part of anything. I just told him I wasn't going back and forth because that's why I brought you in for that.
May I see the credit card statement from the purchase of this equipment? And Mr. Borum, I want to see where you took out $2,200 from in cash. I want to see where you took. You said you paid him half.
$2,200. I didn't pay half.
Well, what'd you pay?
I never stated that I
Just
paid half.
shh. If you're partners, that's what you have to pay. How much did you give him?
I gave him money here and there, like on all the.
That doesn't help. That doesn't help me, sir. That doesn't help me. He's a bank statement.
I didn't think I had to keep a record if we was best friends for 15 years. That's just
I can't help you, sir. I can't help you if you say you paid a little bit here and there. I can't help you with that.
Never gave me a dime.
So when you state that if you're a friend, you're doing this to help me out as a gift for what I got going on,
a gift.
and then you try to bring it and take it back from me.
Mr. Borum, how many podcasts have you made since June?
Since June?
Yeah.
I believe we on episode 15, 16, something like that.
15, 16. Successfully.
Yes, ma'am.
And you intend to do this for profit?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you so far seen any profit?
Not as now, because you know you gotta build up.
Just a second. So not as of yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your wife work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have two incomes in the house.
Right.
And this is a side job for you.
Correct.
But you have to buy your own equipment because he's coming to get his equipment. That's going to be the court's order.
So if
it's his equipment.
It's
his equipment. The equipment
so he can't
that
gift it to me. That's what he told me he was doing because we was friends.
Just a
and he appreciated what I was doing.
This is why we're here.
Right.
And now I heard you, and I heard him, and now I'm ruling. I am making an order that he, within 5 days of today, with a marshal or a sheriff, will come and pick up his equipment.
So you giving him my equipment back is tarnishing what I got
I'm giving
going
him
on.
his equipment back.
But he never used it, though.
I don't care whether he used it or not. It was a failed business venture where you both expect.
It's not a business venture.
This is not a tea dance. He's getting back his equipment. You and your wife have a side business going. Go buy equipment. Do you understand? 5 days, wait outside. You'll get a copy of my order. You can go get your equipment. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
A 15-year friendship, obviously it don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Eventually, you see the real person in somebody. That's all I can say.
You could be friends with somebody 100 years, and they gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I had a good friend for a while, but really...
Man, the show gonna go on, man. Y'all know, make sure y'all watch, tune in.
I was just tolerating a really bad person.
I've had understandings with my friends similar to what the plaintiff and defendant has. One of my friends will stay in my apartment from time to time for a few nights, and I always make sure, because you never want a holdover tenant or a friend staying longer than you had anticipated, and I'll text and I'll say, okay, you're good to stay there Thursday and Friday night. Let me know if there's any problems, but you got to be gone by 9 a.m. on Saturday. Just to memorialize the understanding that I think I have, even with friends. It's just always smart to have some sort of record of a business, an understanding, a trade-off. I just think that it's good practice to, even if it's just a text, something to memorialize what you believe the understanding to be.
I agree with you. Yeah. And that would make my job easy, but would eliminate this TV program.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Frank Automitis is suing his wife's boyfriend, Willie Albrecht, for filing a false police report and harassment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2068, Automatis versus Albrecht.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Albrecht, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You are the current live-in boyfriend of the plaintiff's ex-wife?
Soon to be.
Of the plaintiff's wife.
Correct.
Mr. Adamus's complaint is that as a result of you making a call to the police, he was defamed when you said that he was trespassing. It was a false call to the police, and he wants to be compensated to the tune of $2,500. That's what the case is about. So in order to make this whole thing in context that I understand, how long have you been living with Mrs. Adamus?
Since June of 21.
How long do you know her?
Since January of 21.
Have you ever been married?
Yes, I have.
When and for how long?
Previously to April of this year, I was married for 15 years.
So you were married when you moved in with Mrs. Adamus?
Yeah.
Legally?
Legally.
Did you own your own home?
I did.
With your then wife?
Correct.
Did she stay in the house?
She did.
Does she have a boyfriend?
Yes, she does.
Do you like him?
No, I do not.
Does he live in the house?
Not at this time.
Did he ever?
Yes, he did.
And you didn't like it?
No, I did not.
So I want you to understand that there is maybe a reason why the plaintiff resents you living in a house that he owns with his still wife, and you're living there. Do you understand?
I do.
Because you sort of have the same situation. You're kindred spirits. Just a minute. Actually, you're kindred spirits.
Except my 15-year-old son also lives with this young man.
So who cares?
Oh.
Well, that's all right. But you understand why he might be annoyed.
I do, but...
Okay. So now, understanding all that, I want you to tell me, because I'm not totally sympathetic with you, sir, because if you and your wife are divorcing, you're entitled to move on with your life, and so is she entitled to move on with your life. Where do you live? You live in an apartment?
I live in a condominium.
Okay. How long have you lived in the condo?
I've lived when we separated March of 2021.
And who do you live with?
I currently live with my...
No. Who do you live with is the question.
My older son.
And how old is he?
19.
And how many bedrooms are in the condo?
2.
And what about you? Have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
Ever stay over?
My house? No.
Do you ever stay at her house?
No.
Does she live with her children?
Yes.
And is she divorced?
Yes.
And she stayed in the house?
Yes.
You see how all these things go? It's just as the world turns. It's just what happens. I've been there. Understand it all. Can either make it hard or difficult. Who pays the mortgage on the house?
Paid off.
Okay. So you have one teenage child, your wife has the other.
Yes.
And how close is the judgment to divorce to being finalized?
Not close.
Not close. Is that for financial reasons or custody reasons?
Financial.
Had to do with the house?
Yes.
Okay. How much is the house? I'm just fleshing this out.
Speculating.
Probably because I'm a little bit of a yenta. Behind this purple robe is a little bit of a...
You know, with the housing market, being a CPA, you know, it's hard to say, you have to do, but I would say somewhere...
Why don't you give Sarah the address of the house, and we'll tell you what this estimate is.
California.
While she's looking that up, tell me when you and your wife purchased it.
2006, August of 2006.
And during the course of the marriage, were you employed all the time?
100%.
And what about your wife?
100%.
So you were both employed and both contributed to the house. Fair statement?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The estimate is $552,000.
And just for my own curiosity, what's the rub about the house?
The rub
Come on, it's simple.
The rub about the house is she's now went in and spent an ungodly amount of money on fixer-upper after I moved out and went into a massive amount of debt. The house was fully paid off, and she's now in massive debt. She's put in fixer-upper.
No, don't look at her.
Okay, that's
look
what
at me.
Okay.
So she's fixed up the house after you moved out.
Correct.
And?
It's not a problem.
Just a second. So what's the problem?
There is no problem with the house. Meaning that, you know, we're still debating who's actually going to end up with the house. We haven't decided.
Well, you know, whoever wants to be in the house buys the other one out.
Exactly.
For $260,000.
Correct.
Okay? It would seem to me that would be easy.
I think so.
Okay. Now that I've satisfied the yenta in me, I'm getting back to the case. All right. You called the police. This incident, according to what I read, Mr. Adamus, happened on November 5th.
Correct.
You went to the house to pick up your son.
Correct.
Okay. Was that a meeting that had been arranged before?
I have visitation every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks when?
Every other weekend.
Well, so was this a weekend?
Yes, that was one where I was going to go pick him up.
Okay. Had you spoken to him?
Yes.
And so he was expecting you to come at a certain time?
Absolutely.
What time?
Approximately there, we'd arranged about 7:15, that 7:15, 7:30 that night.
Okay. And you had visitation fixed by the court, and you had been enjoying that with your son for a period of time?
Correct.
Okay. What happened when you got there at 7:15?
Well, on that particular visit, my wife had taken his key to the house. And I had...
No. I told you, don't look at her.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
I'm getting sympathetic with her. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
7:15, you went to pick up your son. And you were annoyed because your wife had taken your son's key away from him.
Correct.
And you thought your son should have his key because he was 15.
Yes.
And?
So at that particular time,
No, don't look down.
Okay, Look at me. I went into the house. I'd never been in that house since I moved out, and so I wanted.
How did you get into the house?
The door was open.
Okay, the door isn't wide open. If the door was, you mean it was unlocked?
Unlocked.
Okay, so let's not say the door was open.
Okay,
the door was unlocked.
Correct.
Door was unlocked. You don't live there anymore. You live in a condo.
Correct.
Okay, did you ring the bell?
No.
Knock at the door?
Yes.
Nobody, but there's a bell.
Answers.
There's a bell.
There was a bell.
There's a bell.
Yes.
Didn't ring the bell. Open the door. Now, open the door.
Yes.
Your house, I own half of it. I'm going to ask my wife a question.
Yes.
Keep going.
Walked into the house. At that particular time, she is sitting there with my son. At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument. She didn't want me to have a copy of the key. And I tried to explain to her, without a copy of the key, he can't get in the house. If I drop him off at odd hours, then you don't have to be home. So then she got upset. At that point, then I never met Mr. Albrecht before this time. He comes storming down the stairs. Mr. Albrecht is then, I think Mr. Albrecht's coming to beat me up. He is storming down the stairs. I have since learned that Mr. Albrecht...
Just stop.
Okay.
Just pay careful attention to me. So far, you're in the wrong.
Okay.
Now, let me just tell you.
Okay.
So far, from a legal perspective...
Right.
And a common sense perspective...
Okay.
You're in the wrong. I'll explain why in a second.
So I walk into that house.
We got past that.
Okay.
We got past that. So now you want a copy of the key, and she says no. I don't care if you want to give it to your parakeet.
Okay.
You're not entitled to a copy of the key.
Okay.
Let's start right there.
Okay.
And let's start with my first point is if you're going there to pick up your son for a prearranged visit.
Yes.
You don't walk into the house. You have a 15-year-old son. A 15-year-old son has a phone.
I tried to call him, yes.
Oh, you tried to call him. What happened?
He said he was there, that he said...
Be very careful what you say to me.
Okay, he was
called
there.
your son.
And I called my son, be ready to go. He said, okay, I'm ready to go.
That was at about 7 o'clock.
Yes, approximately.
What do you mean, yes, approximately?
Yeah, I was probably on my way to pick him up. And so when I come up there, I call him on the phone.
Okay, he's ready to go.
Yes, are you ready to go?
Okay, so you walked in.
Okay.
You had no right to enter the house.
Did not know that.
Well, you had no right to enter the house. You knew that your wife changed the locks.
I did not know at that time she had changed the lock because the door was open. I had not been
No. Listen to me. You went there because... Mr. Adonis, you have to be a two-process thinker, sir, before you give me a lot of baloney. You knew that your old key didn't open the house. Otherwise, you would have said, your mother took away your key. I'll make you another key from my copy.
True.
True. Of course it's true. So, you know.
And later today.
I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When?
They...
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Frank Automitis claims his wife's boyfriend, Willie Albrecht, wrongfully called the police while visiting his own house.
Okay, if you needed a copy of the key to a house that you partially own,
yes,
you would have had a key to the house.
Correct.
You didn't need a copy to make because you would have had one.
Okay.
So you knew that your old key didn't open the house. Otherwise, you would have said, your mother took away your key. I'll make you another key from my copy.
True.
True. Of course it's true. So, you know, so he called the police and he said you were trespassing.
No, he didn't say that at all.
What did he say?
He said he told me I was trespassing. Then he called on the phone, and when he's on the phone with the police department, he is telling them that I am now committing domestic violence. Now, that is a very serious charge. I mean, okay, we can debate about my access to the house, but when you call the police and say that I'm committing domestic violence, which is a crime in the state of California, that's a game changer. So
I want to ask you a question, Mr. Adonis. When you walked into the house and you saw your wife and your son, I want to know, when you walked in uninvited,
true,
your first words were, I want a copy of the key. That's what you said. You said, I want a copy of the key. Would you read that back to me, please, Whitney?
I'll go with that.
At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument.
So now you're in an argument, and you're a trespasser. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Okay.
This court is adjourned.
Very, very shocking.
She's absolutely correct, as she usually is.
I had no idea this was going to blow up into World War III.
Because he's all about winning. He didn't get his way. He was throwing a temper tantrum.
I feel that he's just trying to do whatever he can to keep me out of the picture.
He lives by his own rules.
He just simply wants me out of the way so he could take over.
Let the courts decide.
It's always so unfortunate when people divorce. I mean, the story is this. I could have written the script without even listening to the people. But they have two teenage boys, 15, 19 years old. One's chosen to live with the father. One's chosen to live with the mother. Clearly, the son said to him, Mom took away my key. She clearly took away his key for a reason. I didn't even want to get into what the reason was, but clearly she took away the key for a reason. Otherwise, she doesn't look like an unreasonable person. Her boyfriend doesn't look like an unreasonable guy. And he was flexing his muscles. And the fight is over the house, because I gather that's the only real asset they have. Yeah. Anyway, unfortunate when people don't realize that they have to love their children more than they hate each other.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice are suing their former employee, Trevor McCormick, for breaking his lease, the cost of a phone, as well as a personal loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case number 2031, Snyder Alice versus McCormick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Snyder, you own a farm,
I do.
and this is your girlfriend.
Yes.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
5 years tomorrow.
You say that as if 5 years tomorrow. And?
And I'm just saying, it's 5 years.
5 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And?
And the rest of our lives.
Okay, good. He know that?
No, he's learning.
He's learning. Terrific. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from the bare bones of the story. Mr. McCormick was dating an employee of yours.
Correct.
What was that employee's name?
Natasha.
When were you dating the lovely Natasha?
We weren't really dating. We were an acquaintance.
Where was Natasha living?
She was living, when we first met, she was living at a friend's house, and she was working for Adam as an employee at a restaurant.
And when was that? Month and year?
I'd say around September of last year.
September 2021?
Yes.
And?
And we decided to move out because Adam had
so you were living with Natasha at the friend's house?
Yes.
Where had you been living before?
My mom's.
So you went from mom's house to Natasha and a friend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you go?
Then we moved into the trailer right next to Adam that he owned.
Who had a discussion with Mr. Snyder about potentially renting the trailer so you would have a place to live? And what kind of rent were you paying?
I believe it was $800.
And you moved into the trailer when?
Around November.
Of 2021?
Yes.
And you lived in the trailer till when?
About March.
March of 2022?
Yes.
In March, what happened?
Me and Natasha weren't getting along. I just had enough.
There was never a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
No.
She was just a friend. Did you know that?
That is not true.
So what did you do?
I asked Adam if I could move into the ranch house. There was nobody living there at the time.
Where were you living?
I live at my home with Julie.
Okay, and there's a ranch house on the farm.
I have a ranch house on a separate piece of property.
Close by to the farm?
Yes, 3 miles.
That was vacant?
Correct.
Okay, so you asked to rent it?
Yes.
Who was going to rent it?
I was.
Just you?
Yes, just me.
How much was the rent?
It was $800.
And this was in March?
Yes.
Prior to March of 2022, what kind of work were you doing?
I was working at a factory.
How long did you work there?
About a month.
What month?
March.
Prior to March, where were you working?
On Adam's farm.
From when to when?
I'd say about December until March.
Well, in December to March, you were living in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. And you were living with the lovely Natasha.
Correct.
And Natasha, I assume, was contributing to the rent.
Yes.
And how much were you contributing to the rent? Is not an answer. How much were you contributing to the rent from December to March of 2021?
Couple hundred a month.
That's not an answer. A couple of hundred a month. How much do you pay for rent? $316 a month and 24 cents. How much does it cost to have your garbage picked up? $59.12. Do you understand? Certain things change. What was your electric bill last year? I don't remember. What was your bill last month? I don't remember.
$300, ma'am.
You see? But I mean, a couple is two.
Yes.
Who did you pay that to?
Natasha.
Well, I can't tell whether you pay that to Natasha or not. Did you ever discuss rent with Mr. Snyder?
No.
Even in the trailer?
Even in the trailer.
So that was all done through Natasha?
Correct.
Okay. But according to you, you worked someplace in March, but before that you worked on the farm.
Yes.
From when to when? December to March?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, or the end of December?
The middle, the 16th.
Is that about right?
If you want to call
Just
helping...
helping whatever.
Yes.
December 16th. Okay. And from December 16th, you did whatever work it was on the farm until March?
Yes.
March what?
Till I moved out.
No, March what? Beginning, middle, and...
28th.
And what was the rent in the ranch house? The ranch house must have been nicer than the trailer you were living in.
$800.
You moved in April?
Yes.
How much money did you give him?
$900.
Some was to go towards security?
I was in between jobs, and that's what I had, so we made an agreement that I'd pay $900 the week of, and then so on and so on. I don't have
What's the so on and so on?
I don't have the copy of the lease. He never gave me it.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I have it right here. In the back of the contract, you'll see where we wrote down he would pay $900
Just a second.
on the 8th.
Okay, so the security deposit was supposed to be $1,200. You paid $8.
Paid $9.
The security deposit was $12, and you paid $9 of security deposit?
I paid $9 total, ma'am.
Well, how many months did you live there?
Not even one.
When did you move out?
April 24th, I moved out.
Is that correct?
That's close, yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when he moved out because he didn't tell me he was moving out. He just locked the door.
Okay.
And wouldn't
but it was in
return
April.
messages.
Okay. And you had $900.
He paid $900.
And the rent on the property was supposed to be?
$800 per month.
$800 monthly.
Yes.
So right now, you've been paid for the month that he lived there.
Correct.
Prior to his moving in there, who was living there?
Nobody.
So it wasn't rented?
Nope.
In what year was it last rented?
2021.
When?
Oh, no, it was in February. We did an eviction on it.
So somebody lived there and didn't pay rent?
Correct.
Is that the first person who came and didn't pay rent?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's
And
lousy
Trevor
to
was
be a
there, and
landlord.
he helped us do the eviction on that, so he knew how it worked.
Hmm?
Trevor was there. He helped us do the eviction because we had to have court officers there
To get him out because they weren't paying rent.
So he knows how it works.
Well, he may know how it works, but he did, in fact, give you $900.
He did.
And he lived there for less than a month.
That's right.
So that's sort of square. I know you'd like him to be responsible for his lease, but you have your house back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about this phone that you say he owes you for.
Okay.
By the way, where's your phone?
I have my phone that I paid for. Their phone that I put a down payment for is at my house.
Why?
I didn't know I had to bring it.
Well, it was just purchased within the last year.
Yeah.
Why do you have two phones? You have no
Because,
job. Why do you have two phones?
I have a job.
Oh, good.
I bought this outright because he shut the other phone off.
Oh, well, where is the phone?
The phone's at my house.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone 13.
You want it back?
I'd like him to just pay for it like the agreement was, but...
He gets back his phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even though I paid
just
it
a
down.
second. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Highland.
Where is that?
It's by Detroit, Michigan.
Who else lives at home?
My girlfriend.
What's her name?
Ariel.
Where is she?
She is currently working right now.
Does she know where the phone is?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to give you an envelope in the clerk's office back here. You're going to tell Ariel to put his phone carefully packed and mail it to him. FedEx, UPS, the fastest way it will get there. Then you get your phone back. Go. What's next?
I have text messages here from Trevor. This will show where, when he was dating Natasha, they had agreed that they would pay for their phones up front so that I would put them on my business plan. I told them I would only do that if they paid for the phones up front, because when I took Trevor to Verizon, I said, if they don't pay for their phone bill, as long as they've paid for these phones in full, I can shut them off and it will cost my business no money, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the lady said, that is right. I said, okay, then we can do it. So we added them to the bill, to the business plan. And here, where I text him, I said, you and Natasha told me you were paying for the phone in cash. That's why I allowed you on my business plan. Now I found out that you did not pay for the phones up front, because when we were in there, he and Natasha had the cash.
Did you assure Mr. Snyder that you were going to pay for the phone?
I had no idea I was even going to get a phone until Natasha said, go with Adam and go pick up our phones. That's all I heard, and that's what I did.
Well,
I didn't know
can't
about
say
the
that
cash.
to me because the lovely Natasha isn't here either. Sir, you're going to get your phone back. Is it one phone or more?
We recovered the second one from...
Well, you're going to recover this one, too. You recovered the second one.
Yeah.
Second one was Natasha's?
Correct.
Great. We're going to recover this one, too. What's next? Changing lock fees, and you want a personal loan. Okay. So once he moved out, according to you, he moved out totally, and you didn't even know he moved out. So I don't know why the locks were changed.
The lock did not need changed. I did tell the court that we were going to have to change the locks because the key was missing. I didn't know that while I was away on storm, Julie had gone in to check to make sure the water wasn't running, and she found the key on the table. And that is
Okay,
what Trevor
great.
said.
So we're going to eliminate that. And now we're going to go to the small loan that you say that you made to the defendant.
So Natasha came over, guys. He said she worked at.
Don't tell me what Natasha asked you. That's all hearsay. I need to know what conversations you had with the defendant.
Okay, but she came over.
But you can't tell me what she said, you see.
Okay. So
and
anyway,
if you made a contract, if you made a contract with Natasha for a loan of money, even if it went for his benefit, do you understand? Okay. Even if it went for his benefit, he's not responsible. If Natasha says, I want you to give, what's your first name?
Trevor.
Trevor, a loan to fix his car, and you say, okay, you need somebody to pay you back. Natasha has to say, I'll pay you back. However, you can't tell me that.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand? Try not to do that.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice claim their former employee, Trevor McCormick, owes for the cost of a phone and a personal loan. Trevor is countersuing for unpaid wages.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with Trevor about money?
I do. I have a text message telling him.
No, tell me, not a text message.
The conversation was not verbal.
It was by text message?
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to see text message from him.
Yep. This has from Trevor. This is his number.
Okay. May I see it, please?
He did pay me $100 in cash.
Okay, so it's clear from this text exchange, sir, that you borrowed a certain amount of money from the plaintiff.
I did not borrow Natasha.
Yes, well, it acknowledges it here because you say, I start that job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first check. It was for me, and I will pay it. That's what you wrote. Do you understand? Do you want to look at it?
No.
You don't want to look at it. You're not questioning me, so it's clear from this that you borrowed money from Miss Ailes.
I personally did not. I didn't even know what was going on.
Who wrote this? I start that job on the 14th.
That was me.
Well, then, that's in response to her text message to you that says, hello, Trevor. I heard you were moving out and I need that paid by the end of the month. I have been very patient as no attempt has been made on this. Thank you. And you immediately wrote back to her and said, I start that job on the 14th and I will pay you out of my first paycheck. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am.
You mean, yes, ma'am. Now, I'm going to get back and ask you the question I think I asked before. What was the loan for?
I broke down in Oklahoma.
In what month and year was that?
About September of last year.
September of 2021 is just about when you started dating Natasha.
Correct.
Okay, so your car broke down in Oklahoma. And?
And it had to get fixed.
And?
So I rode the Greyhound bus back up to Michigan and waited until my car got fixed, which took months.
I'm asking you, what was the loan for?
To go back down and get my car.
So it was $670 that you borrowed from her, and I want to know how it was that you got the money.
I came in to Julie's house, and Natasha said, you're going to Oklahoma to pick up your car, because I didn't have any money right then and there, but I wasn't going to ask anybody.
Just a second. I don't care what you were going to do, what you didn't do, what you thought about doing. You went into the house that the plaintiffs share.
Mm-hmm.
Not uh-huh. Uh-huh is not an answer. The answer is yes. The lovely Natasha was there.
Yes.
With Julie.
Yes.
What did you say and what did Julie say to you? Just Julie.
Julie didn't really say anything. She said, don't tell Adam about the money.
Okay, so she said she would give you money.
Yes.
And she knew exactly how much you needed.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Okay. When she gave you the money, did she give it to you in check or cash?
She didn't give me no money. She gave Natasha the money.
Okay, how much was it?
$700, around there.
And after it was given to you by Natasha, but you were all in the same room together.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up. Yes.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand?
Yes.
Try not to do that. You were in the house with Julie and Natasha at some point, and at some point, money was discussed.
No.
Was money discussed in front of him?
No, it was not.
Okay. So your loan was not with him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Unless he ratifies the loan subsequently. Is that correct?
Correct.
This is from my person who just studied for the bar, and I have to go back in my mind 50 years. If my memory is correct, if you don't make a loan directly with someone, they cannot be obligated to repay that money. However, if they subsequently get use of that money and subsequently agree to repay you, they have ratified that contract.
Correct. You just have to decide if that's a ratification.
Yeah. What would be your take on that? Take a look at it very carefully. What would be your take?
It was for me, I will pay it. Seems pretty close to textbook ratification.
Yeah, I would say so. I start a job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first paycheck.
I just wanted to keep the peace because she was down my throat.
This woman was down your throat?
Yes.
She may have been annoyed, very annoyed, but she wasn't down your throat. She was the one who volunteered to give you money in your time of need. How could she be down your throat? Okay. So far you paid her back $100. Is that what he paid you back? So he owes you $600. Okay. So far, Mr. Snyder, I'm not with you on it, on the rent.
Okay.
I'm not with you on the lock change fees. I am with you on the phone, which you're going to get back. He's going to get that back within 5 days. Otherwise, he's going to have difficulty.
Here from the day that he did the phone purchases, instead of paying for the phones up front, he also added a bunch of other cordless phone chargers and everything else to the bill.
How much were the extras?
Totally, there's 2,000.
No. I don't want them total. Total, you're going to get the phone back. What were the extras that he charged onto the phone?
There is a $41.99.
$41.99.
There is a $20.99.
Okay. You know that I went to 7 years of postgraduate school for this. Keep going.
$29.99.
7 years. They were very hard years. I also took the bar exam. Keep going. $29.99.
$17.99.
Oh, it's getting worse. Not better for you, Mr. Snyder.
And $11.99.
Worse. A lot worse.
$122.95.
Okay. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Working on the farm.
Okay. Tell me about that. From when to when did you work on the farm?
November to the end of March.
And what were you doing between November and March?
I was feeding cattle when Adam was on storm, watering them.
To March what? The end of March?
Yes, right.
I thought you worked at a factory.
I did both.
Well, you can't do both. You work at a factory. I asked you if you had a job. You said, I work at a factory.
I did do both.
Well, now I need the name of the factory and find out what your shift was.
I was,
And you worked during the day?
Yes.
From when to when?
From
Time?
6 to 6.
Well.
I had...
Just a second. Mr. McCormick, if you work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is not possible to work a full-time job for the plaintiff as well.
I had a schedule of three on, 2 off.
Okay. We're making it up as we're going along. Did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did. Although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
That's incorrect.
Oh, just don't speak.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice have accused their former employee, Trevor McCormick, of refusing to pay the cost of a phone and the balance of a loan. Trevor claims he was not paid for the work he did on their farm.
Now, did he work for you?
It would be very minimal. He would put hay bales out, which would take 10 minutes.
He would put what?
Hay bales out for the cattle.
Hay bales?
Yes.
At approximately what time of day? Because I'm not getting...
He could come and do it when he got home from work.
Okay. And did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did.
Okay. Is there any reason why you never did?
Because he didn't do it very often, and he said he was just happy to help, although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
So he got paid when he worked for you?
He did.
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
just don't speak. From when to when?
When he helped me, it was very minimal. It would be...
No, I'm not talking about the hay. You said he did, in fact, work for me.
He did.
I want to know, but not on the farm. He worked someplace else.
He helped on another piece of farmland that I have.
Okay.
Where a barn had fallen down. We were tearing the steel off, and he worked 3 hours that morning.
3 hours what morning?
The last day that he was there, it would have been...
So that's in March?
Early, I would say the second week of March.
Okay. When was the first time he worked there?
I would say probably in January.
And he was working at this other plant from 6 to 6 in March,
Correct.
according to him. So he did some work for you in the first month, which was January.
Yeah, if he helped me, it might be 1 day a week.
Fine, I just want to know if he got paid for it. That's what he's...
Yes,
we
he did.
can't do May something. How much did you pay him?
It would depend on how much he worked. One day I gave him $300 for helping me for a day and a half on another demolition job I did.
And you paid him in cash?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the demolition job. That wasn't for the farm.
It doesn't make any difference, sir. If you have a full-time job and you're working part-time someplace else and you say he paid you...
He did not pay me.
Well, you say he didn't pay you for the farm. What he's saying is he had a job with me. He was a demolition job for which he got paid, which you do not deny. Is that right?
I'm not.
You just said that's not what I asked you. He paid you for the job that you did part-time for him
Yes,
in
he paid me for
demolition.
that job, yes.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And what you're suing him for is allegedly money that he owes you for working on the farm during a period that does include March when you were working full-time someplace else.
Correct.
And working for him.
Yes.
And doing this work at the site in March, the first 2 weeks in March, because you got some money for that.
Correct.
So now you have, according to you, 3 jobs. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
First of all, you had no fixed financial arrangement with him at the farm.
Correct. He said he'd pay me what he can.
That is not a contract. Okay, but let's move forward with that. Tell me what your chores were at the farm.
I would go feed them hay.
Just feed who hay?
The cows.
Okay, how many cows do you have?
130.
Anybody else work on the farm or just him?
Just me mainly, and he would help when I was gone.
Okay, and in order to keep these animals alive, they have to be fed hay.
Correct.
For how many months did you feed them hay?
3.
Once a day?
Yes.
And what time would you do this?
Usually in the morning.
Before you went to work?
Yes.
That had to be 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to work at 6 o'clock. You had a shift, according to you, from 6 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, so how long did this take you in the morning when you had a full-time job?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes. I want you to tell me how long it took you.
Average about an hour and a half a day.
So let's say it took you an hour a day. And how many days did you do it?
I was with him every day before I got the job. I would go with him every day.
I don't care.
Okay.
For the 3 months, I'm asking you how many days you did it.
45.
That be right? In the 3 months, maybe 45 days? How many days did he put out hay?
If Trevor fed the cattle 12 days the whole time by himself, I'd be surprised.
And I helped him because I was there.
You did not help me when
Just
he
a
was
second.
gone.
Yes.
You helped him with the bales of hay?
Yes, I helped him because we also had another hired hand that would help me too, so I was rotating between both of them.
Okay, so let's say he worked 20 hours. Did you pay him any extra money for this work?
No, not for feeding cattle.
Not feeding cattle. And you didn't have any arrangement with him whereby he would work on the farm and he would get something off his rent?
No.
Okay, so he has to be paid for that. Sarah Rose, would you look up and see if there's a minimum wage in Michigan? What's the federal minimum wage? I don't know anymore.
$15.
So the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. That's federal.
Yes, ma'am.
15 times 20.
$300.
Okay, so, Mr. Snyder, let's start with you. You are going to get your phone back within 5 days. On your cross-claim against Mr. Snyder, I am awarding you $300 on your counterclaim. That is for the work that you did on the farm. However, we are holding that check until he gets his phone back in good condition.
Yes.
Do you understand? Otherwise, you forfeit that money.
Yes, ma'am.
To him. Do you understand?
Yes.
With regard to the co-plaintiff, I find that you did, in fact, take a loan from her, that you initially did it through a third party, but that you ratified the fact that you would make payments on the loan by 2 things. First, by acknowledging it in writing, and second, by making a payment. So I'm awarding you $600 on your claim. Those are the orders of the court. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think they're scam artists.
We came here to try to teach him a lesson that when he enters into contract with somebody, the contract is a contract.
They're greedy. They want money. They need money.
For being greedy, we did a lot to help this guy out.
By doing pretty much anything they ask.
Well, we've decided we're not helping people out anymore. They're on their own.
It's funny because if he didn't send those text messages ratifying the contract that someone else had made on his behalf, he could have gotten away without any responsibility. But when someone makes an agreement on your behalf and you then later either pay for it or admit responsibility that you know you owe it, then you've ratified it and you're held to that, even if you didn't make the initial agreement.
See, and then the right thing happened.
Yeah.